having a grandparent, that has dementia, but that has like adult asthma, or that kind of snores a little while they sleep, and that is always, those they're always just it's just too much, man. It's always just, it's like a rattle. Like the thing always just sort of rattles a little bit, like it'll just kind of click on, even though it's on all the time. Every now and then the refrigerator just sounds like it just cuts, like like somebody startled it or something, like somebody just tried to shove something up its freezer section. I don't know. I'm in Orlando, man. It's late. I had a long day. I'm about to get into it, but I want to thank you guys for joining me. I hope you had a good weekend. I think a lot of people are still enjoying some of that 4th of July-ness and, a little bit of that aftermath of Labor Day and vacation time. And I went to Disney World, man. I went to Disney World this weekend. That's probably the biggest thing that I did. I was down here at the Orlando Improv, and I went to Disney World. And I don't know if you've been down to Disney, but I have before. I went twice. I went once as a child. My mother saved up some money, I'm sure, and took my brother and I to Disney World. My father didn't go. He was probably 75 at the time, and he stayed at home. And my mom took us, and I only have a few, maybe vague recollections from that, just still images in my head. But I went to Disney World when I was in high school, and we took acid. We took some LSD. Now, this was a time when people were experimenting with drugs, which is all the time in America. If you've ever been around or opened your eyes in America, you'll see people on drugs. And we went there. We took a bus from Louisiana over to Orlando, Florida, here where I am right now. And we stayed in some shit motel. And it was a school organized trip. And they brought us down, and I remember on the bus, I'd been seeing a gal at the time in high school, and I remember we're making love on the bus. I remember that, getting in the middle of the night. I remember, her, just escalating her body on top of me and making love, and really making that joy, adding more joy to that bus ride than usual bus rides, because I've been on some other bus rides, and I'm happy to talk about those. And I would like to just, while I'm thinking about it, let's make that the topic for next week. If you have been on a wild bus ride, I'm talking Greyhound or a bus adventure of some sort, Peter Pan, one of those troubled bus lines. And if you've had a wild experience, you can hit the hotline and let me know about that. And we'll try to drop some of those in for next week. That number is 985-664-9503. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming. So we got down to Orlando, and somebody had some acid. And so we took some acid, a little bit of LSD. And I remember if something was in this LSD, it made everybody look Asian. If I don't know if we, if the guy who'd gotten it had copped it off of an Asian guy or a Viet or a Cambodian. They call them Cambos, a lot of people. But we had that Vietnamese acid or whatever it was, that Cambo acid. And I remember everybody I looked at looked Asian, and I got thin eyes, so game recognized game. But when I'm on that acid and it just made everybody look Asian. So we came there, and it was like graduation night, and all of my high school buddies, probably about 8 or 9 people on acid, and didn't tell the rest of the class. And we're just running around. It's a Small World. We probably went on that about 9 times. Some kid kept drinking the water out of Pirates of the Caribbean, and he got sick. He drank probably about 2 gallons of it, and he got pretty sick. But we just spent the whole night on acid, running around and doing the different rides and being scared of each other and being scared of ourselves and hiding in the bathroom. And like 6 of us tried to split a hamburger. That's how geeked out we were, and couldn't even do it. Couldn't even eat it. But that was a good time, and that was part of high school, But that was the last time I'd been to Disney World. And that was only one of 2 senior trips. Now, we'd taken another senior trip to Mexico. Mexico, one of the larger countries south of America. And we got down there, and everybody, I remember, bought a bunch of prescription pills and was stealing each other's stuff. I mean, it wasn't but a couple of, probably 9 hours we were down there in Cancun, and half the class, and this was a senior trip in high school, half the class was, hopped up on prescription pills and stealing each other's luggage and selling each other's shit on the streets and, stealing each other's whatever it was at the time. We didn't have cell phones. We had those calculators, TI-85s, those fancy, U-laters, and we were, those number crunchers, that they do algebra, and we were stealing those and selling them and buying more pills. And I mean, for a group of 17 or 18, 19-year-olds, it only took us about 12 hours to go completely AWOL and half of us be addicted to painkillers and out there selling each other's goods and different type of textiles and wares. So that got bad, and then everybody's fighting, and half of us were sharing a room, and I remember we were stealing stuff from each other and hiding it in the same room we were in. So that right there will tell you what some prescription pills will do to you. So that's one thing you need to stay off of. But anyhow, that was, and a lot more happened on that trip. But that was some of those high school trips, and one of those was to Disneytown, Florida. And I'm here this weekend in Orlando, Florida. And some lovely ladies, Miss Suzanne and Megan, they just hit me up actually on the hotline. And they said, Theo, we would love to take you to Disney World. And I said, I would love to go. And Jiggy, he's a comedian as well. His name is Jiggy, and he's a white guy. Because you think Jiggy, you think it's more of a urban hip-hop name, Jiggy! But it's not. It's a white Jiggy. And he's a very funny comedian. He tours with the Impractical Jokers, and he's a great guy. No ego on this young man. Really great guy. But he came along with us as well, and he met some little bird the night before she came. So we got a motley crew out there at the, and his friend Giovanna came as well. So we had a great little crew out there at Disney World. We got there early, out of the gate. I was up at 8 a.m., did not want to be awake, did not want to go see the mouse. But we got there, and it was a great time, man. We got a little bit of sun. You get there and you park, and then you get on the tram, and it seemed a lot more like a theme park than it did like a magical kingdom. That's where we went. We went to Magic Kingdom. But when I was young, I remember even in high school, it seemed like, wow, Disney World, But as an adult now, it seemed a little bit more just like a theme park, like, okay, it's, you go on the rides, you wait in the lines. It's not as, more of the magic was for the youth, I found. But it was very picturesque. They had the castle. I mean, it's 100 degrees. You got the little gerbils out there, chipmunks, Alvin and Simon or whoever they are, and they're out there, just sweating. I mean, you could just see their fur just drenching up at the paws and at the elbows from the sweat. And they didn't even have a lot of, Alice in Wonderland was out there, but she looked like she'd been through some things, like she'd been living in Reno for a little bit. But we got there, and you get on the tram, and they take you right past where the little baby got eaten by the alligator. We fought the alligator. And I used to have dreams a lot of times when I was younger where babies would be fighting animals. And so it's hard for me to say I haven't seen animals and babies fight each other, because I have. I haven't seen it live. I don't even know if you can see that even in Mexico or in maybe Russia. I bet you could probably still see some of that type of, gambling activity and such. But in my dreams, I've seen it often. I remember they had a tournament one time over about a week and a half when I was sleeping, not consecutive sleeping, but in the evenings, resting, catching rest. And I would have these different dreams of different babies and animals in this big tournament and fighting each other and fighting each other off. And then, it kept narrowing down until you had one animal that won. And that animal was I want to say it was a lynx, I believe. large cat, dark kind of looking, black cat. But not a black cat like you see just on your street or on a side street. A black cat you have to really get into the woods to see, kind of like the evil black cat in Jungle Book, something like that. But it beat a pretty strong baby in the last kind of dream that I'd had. But anyhow, I'm getting tangential here. But let me tell you this. So you drive right past the place where that baby fought that alligator and lost. And so that's a little crazy out of the gate because you haven't even gotten to the magic. And then they got this, you literally go right over the beach. We've all seen the pictures of the beach and the roped off area where, the alligator just snatched up that baby. And so that's wild because you've just seen that and you get there. And then you get to the park and you go in and you see the Magic Castle. And a friend of mine, one of the friends that went with us, this young lady, Gio, she was telling us that there's a whole underground city there at Disney. And I'm like, wow, this is very much like Vietnam, when you think about it. Because, the Vietnamese, they had these, the Cu Chi tunnels. And if you're not familiar, you can look that up, and that's spelled Cuchi, I think separate words, but the Cu Chi tunnels where the Vietnamese would hide in the ground and then tuck, 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 just poke you out with bamboo spikes up through the ground and surprise you and kill you. And but Disney's not like that. They're trying to show you joy, but they have a whole underground city apparently where the Disney Vietnamese, if you will, are down there. It's just subbing out chipmunks and subbing out, dancing raccoons and wild animals or, Winnie the Pooh, whoever their characters are that are on the lot that day that are, up there rocking, regular ground. They got it where they're subbing each other out and kind of piping each other in and out. So it was just crazy to just even hear that. And then you'd see some of the activity. You'd see like somebody, you'd see like, oh, this crazy walrus from the Walrus movie. He'll disappear around a building, and then you'd see another walrus come out, and he'd be like maybe just 2 inches taller. You'd be like, oh, look at that walrus, I know he didn't just grow behind that building. So, it's just interesting to start to see some of the inner workings of it. If you really, as an adult, you're able to take you're not as mesmerized by the childhood enamorations of it all. And you're able to actually see some other stuff that's going on. So I thought that was really, really captivating to me, just to be able to have that experience of seeing Disney from a more adult standpoint. What else did we do there? Saw a lot of male ponytails, and I know that's a Florida thing. And I don't like it. They have the man bun, and honestly, I think the man bun looks kind of handsome, You see some fellas with it. But the male ponytail, it's just gutter, It is gutter. And it really, a lot of men, if they have that, they got issues, This is actually Jiggy calling on my puck. He's calling right now. I got to take it because I got to see if he's going to bring me some food. Hey, bud.
Hey, are you back at the hotel?
Yeah, I'm back at the hotel, man. I'm just doing my podcast right now.
Oh, my bad. I was just going to bring you something to eat. You want like a salad or a sandwich or something?
I'll take a sandwich. Just anything you run across over there will be good.
All right, man. I'll see you in a few minutes. What's your room number?
My room number is 523.
523. All right, I'll see you soon.
Where are you at?
I'm almost back.
Okay, cool, man. I'll see you in a little bit. Bye. All right, sorry about that, man. Got me a little sandwich coming. It's midnight here, and we're catching a 7 a.m. flight, but we're going to leave at 5:15, so it's going to be that kind of night. What else? So, yeah, Disney was wild, man. We had a great time, went on a few of the rides, and it's, the rides aren't to scare you. The rides are to make you feel joy. And it did take me back, some of it, to being a kid, the Haunted Mansion, and just seeing, I wasn't really looking at the rides as thinking, well, what does this look like to me, this experience? I was more, as an adult, I was trying to think back. I found myself trying to feel like a child. I found myself trying to like look out at the rides and be like, wow, I wonder what this was like when I was a kid. Or I wonder what a kid would be thinking right now if they saw this. So it's interesting. It's a great place to be a kid, man. It's a great place to kind of reconnect with some of that, or to connect with some of that at all, because it's just built so much, I believe, around the mindset of of wowing children. So anyway, that was fascinating, man. We really had a great time, and I just want to thank the young ladies that took us. One of them's husband is a fireman, and he got us some passes. So thank you, Ryan. I know that's the man's name. He didn't even come, so he lent us his wife for the afternoon, and that was kind to him. So thank you very much. We had a good time. We had a really good time. It was a blast, man. And they had some fast passes, so some of the rides we could, get in the quicker line, and we had a blast. So thank you very much. Outside of that, I went and saw an old friend. I had a friend that I hadn't seen in 20 years that lived here in Orlando, and I went and saw him. And it's interesting to see an old friend because they have pieces of your life that you forgot. They have different pieces of the story. They have different elements. And we really shared some stories, and I'm going to get into some of those. I'll get into some of those next week, just some more stories from home and stuff. But that was interesting, just to rekindle just kind of that vibe and that environment. And he had a buddy over. They were making a brisket, right? He had a buddy from, I think his friend was from Israel or England. So he had a buddy over making a brisket. And so I get over there. I'm thinking, we'll eat in a little while. I got over there at probably 1. I'm thinking we'll eat probably 2:30. Well, about 3:45, I'm like, damn, dude, I'm hungry, Like if you invite somebody over for some brisket, you probably need to have some brisket at some point. And I don't mean to get angry, but you need to do what you say you're going to do when it comes to feeding people, because people are hungry. And if they don't eat, they'll die. It's different if I say, come over, I'll lend you a pair of shoes, and I don't. That's fine. You got other shoes. You got skin on your feet. Your body's not going to just fall out of the bottom of your legs. You have skin on your feet that is going to hold your body together. But if you tell somebody to eat, they're going to eat and they're not. And this guy, nicest guy, but he kept trying to be a fancy chef, He's like, oh, well, I'm going to, I got the meat and I'm going to sweat it. I'm going to sweat the meat, I'm going to take it off the grill and put it into an ice thing. And then I'm just going to stare at it, I'm going to get in a staring contest with this meat and see who, show it who's boss. And I'm like, dude, I don't give a fuck who's boss. I don't care about this meat's work history. I don't need to see a resume. I want to eat, bro. And finally, after all this shit of just flipping it in the air and fucking, dusting it with, cumin and damn dust powder and smoke. And this guy's like, he kept pulling the fat off of it and injecting it back into it and like recycled and reused and refurbished and Jesus Christ, reborn, born again brisket. I'm like, what the fuck is going on, dude? I'm about to, the only place you need to baptize this fucking piece of meat is in my mouth, Brother Bear. And so, man, some of this chefing, though, is just going too far. And you got these friends, it's like, dude, we're here to eat. Like, we've been swimming in a pool, we're hanging out with the children. Everybody's having a nice time. We got sunburn. Just fucking eat. We're not saving the world out here. So finally I had to get a little fiery, not with the guy really, but just with the overall idea of what was going on, because you invited me here to eat. Guess what, Buddy Bear? I'm hungry. So let's do it. Oh, but nonetheless, we had a good time. My friend came out to the show with his wife last night, and it was good to catch up with an old friend, man. Pretty good anyway. Sometimes you invite friends and they end up being the loudest one at the show. And I actually had a girl that came out this weekend. And she brought some friend or something, and this is a gal I'd known from years ago. She brought her best friend and that lady's husband, and they sat and talked in the audience the whole time. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, and it always happens. Every time you bring your friends, there's this thing that friends just feel like they're part of the show, And it's not bad sometimes, but sometimes it's bad. But we made the most of it. We made it through. Thank you, Orlando. I had a great weekend, man. I really did. I really, really did. We got some cool calls that hit the hotline. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to go over with you guys. I'm going to drop some quick dates on you right now. And those dates are, I will be in San Diego this Thursday, July 20th. And that is with Sal from Impractical Jokers and Roy Wood Jr. from The Daily Show. And that is at the House of Blues. Then I'll be in Montreal, Canada. Montreal. And that is July 27th through the 30th. I'll be in Texas, Dallas, Texas, at the Addison Improv, August 10th through the 13th. Let's get out to that one. Let's show some love. That's my favorite club. Very excited about that. And then September 6th through the 9th, I will be in Addison, Texas. That's where we are right now. I might add a date in Vancouver. I'm just not sure if people would come out to it. If so, I'll do that next week. We'll see. I'm looking into that right now. But thank you guys for your love and support. You can get the albums right now, 30 Pound Bag of Hamster Bones and Musket Fire. Those are both available on iTunes. And please subscribe to the podcast. We got some new shirts that'll be going up at the end of the week on theovon.com/store. And that's it, man. I love you guys. We had some calls that came in, man. Some neat stuff I wanted to get to. So let's get into it, man. And this is a follow-up. This guy called in. It was a couple weeks late, but I'm guessing he just heard the episode, and he called in talking about America, and then we'll move on to some different stuff. Here we go. All right, hold on. Jeep.
Hey, Theo. It's Trevor from California. Just heard of your last this past weekend and wanted to give you a quick call.
Thank you for calling, Trevor. Happy to have you calling in from California. Let's hear it.
You were talking about what it means to be an American, and I thought all the callers had great points, and as always, you provided some good feedback too. But on kind of I guess more of like a philosophical side.
And Trevor's talking about, we talked about what it meant to be an American. If it's the first time you've heard this podcast, we talked about it. We had some callers call in, just what it meant after 4th of July, what they felt like it meant onward.
I wonder, what do you think about the counterpoint, I should say, that really nationalism and any sense of I'm an American or I'm a Canadian are names for our separation as humans. It's a different way to label ourselves as something separate from one another. And I can kind of tell, from listening to you all this time that you're more kind of and maybe I'm wrong, but you seem to be more of like a brother, universal brotherhood, all one type of thinking. So how do you square the fact that, yes, it's good to be proud to be an American, but at the same time, the more you believe, and especially psychologically and philosophically, if you really believe you are an American, that creates a them and us, or us and them sort of dynamic, which then really is the root cause of all war and conflict is...
Yeah, and I'll just pause you right there, Trevor. I appreciate the call, man. And what's funny is I've been thinking about this. I've been thinking about this since some of the calls and since we went over that topic some. And this is kind of the other side of that coin. Some of our calls and stuff were a little bit, not one-sided, but those were the people that called. So those are the things that we talked about. But this is another view, and it's a great point that Trevor makes, that if we say that, okay, I'm an American and you're a Canadian and you're an Ethiopian and you're from Siam and you're from Mexico, then by having like pride in our country, are we separating ourselves? Are we not looking at the fact to just say, hey, we're all people and we're all here in this world, but instead we're saying I'm this and you're that. So is having, and I'm not trying to juxtapose your point, Trevor, and I appreciate it, and you said it real clearly, but it's like, is that bad? And it's interesting, man. It's a great point. It's like, right when I heard your call, Trevor, it really made me think. Because I'm like, wow, yeah, like if I'm thinking just, America, then am I like, immediately I'm separating myself from other places. Is it all about people, one love, one everyone. And I believe in the idea of brotherhood. I believe that it would be great if we could all live in conjunction that way. I worry though that first of all, I think that if we're going to be able to do that in the world, then America is going to have to probably lead the way. I don't know if that's true. Maybe everyone just has to lead the way, but I think that we seem to be looked at as a leader a lot of times. And if we don't take care, all right, hold on 1 second, guys. I got Jiggy coming over to snack. What's up, man?
Yeah.
Pod. You good? What's up, Sarah?
A little grilled fajita flatbread for you.
Ooh, really? Woo, beautiful.
In a few hours, brother.
All right, brother, be good. Y'all be good. Man, beautiful there. Sorry. My boy Jiggy, his lady is still with him. His lady. This little, some little Betty Ruxpin that he met yesterday. And a sweet girl too, really cute, named Sarah. Really nice. And they met and they started holding hands right at the theme park at Disney World today, right out of the gate. And they met yesterday. I don't know when they met. I'm not assuming they slept together or anything like that, but they probably slept close to each other maybe in the same room. I don't know. And I guess I'm putting them on blast now, but but anyhow, they're still together and they were holding hands at the theme park. That's a wild move. Early, like at 9 a.m. We got there at 8:30. So if you start holding hands early in the day, dude, what? Then it's like every time your hands get near each other, you have to hold again because you started that train already. So he's really been caught up. But she's a sweet girl and he's a great dude. Anyhow, so look, but yeah, that's wild, Trevor. It's wild to think about, like by having American pride, are we separating ourselves? And I think that if we don't, that a company that does a business that doesn't take inventory usually doesn't last long. And that's kind of where I think we are in America. I think we have the ability to set that example and to be that example and even to lead the world, hopefully, into that one love, universal, everyone environment. But I think it's got to be done steps at a time. Like, I think we need a serious roll call in America of who's here. Because you don't take inventory, you're not going to be in business long. And then what? I mean, if we just open the borders right now, everyone would come here. We're already really destined for an overpopulation problem in America. I think a lot of people would come here, and I think violence would start to happen pretty quick. I like to think that, yes, there's all good in people and that's the way it would end up, that we would all share. Maybe that is the way it would go. But are we going to do that? I don't know if we are. I don't know if we're just going to open and just let everybody in the whole, whoever wants to come into America. And I know it's like you're saying, well, it's not our America. We're just living here. We're just passing through time and this is our land. Yes, I agree with that. We are. But we have to, if we want the best to continue to be possible, then I think we have to, monitor the situation where we're at. And I think where we're at right now is that America needs a roll call. I wish they had a day where they made everybody go out in the street and see who your neighbor is. See who's here. We don't even know who's in America. And I just feel like it's just kind of a scary place to be. I would do some things different to start bringing people back together. We could use a bit of closeness in America, getting people back together before we start inviting everybody into this, greed, money-driven society that we kind of have created. I wish that on Sunday nights, I wish they shut the power out. I remember when the power was out, my family used to spend time together. It was one of the only times that we would spend time together was when the power was out. And there was just something about it. It was just peaceful. Somebody had to light a candle and we had to just be around each other, and we couldn't fight or anything because everybody was a little bit scared, and you get this feeling like you need each other. And I thought I think that'd be interesting if we did that in America. If on Sunday nights, after 5 p.m., no more power, shut it down. So what? You can't do business, you can't do whatever. Oh well, you can be with each other still. You can spend time, you can create some of that love. Because I don't know if we're really, I think if you just let everybody in, I think in a matter of a month you'd have severe civil unrest. You'd have the rich all hiding and be able to hide, and you just have straight up anarchy in the streets, Game of Thrones style. Maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, look what happens when there's just when there's. I was gonna say, like, look what happens in like a Katrina type environment when people don't have what they need. Things escalate pretty quick. It's not a level of let's be peaceful and figure this out. Things escalate pretty quick, But I love this thought though. It's so true. That's the other side of the coin. It's like, is this our country? Not really. We were just born here. How do we manage that? And that's an effective thought that I wish that I'd like to think about more, because I feel like it's good for me to think about that. So Trevor, I appreciate you calling in and bringing that to my just to my brain, man. Bring it to the forefront of my brain. A little bit more from Trevor. Let's hear a little more.
Is them and us. So just wanted to hear what you had thought about that. To make a huge jump too, and sorry for the long message, but I also do have a couple of odd sauna interaction stories. You mentioned you were looking.
He said sauna interaction. Now, we had people last week. I asked listeners if they wanted to call and share about if they'd ever been hit on by men or women in a sauna, if they'd had some sauna activities, or even actually here. Well, let's just listen to Trevor.
You were looking for where basically guys will kind of hit on you as I think you mentioned when they were sleeping, though, which is kind of a different thing, but I could certainly give you some.
Yeah, because some men be hitting on other men while they sleeping, And I remember falling asleep at this older man's house one time, and I wake up, and he trying to be by me, and I didn't really know this man that well, and that was kind of wild. And sometimes if you're in a sauna, somebody is so foggy in there, next thing you know, you turn your head, and there is somebody else's right there, or somebody's hip or thigh, or that soft area behind their knee or the small of their back is right up under your nose, and things can get surprising. So that kind of stuff happens in saunas.
Give you some of that detail if that was useful. But I wanted to focus on the nationalism piece.
And I appreciate it, Trevor. I appreciate you calling in the nationalism thought. It's great, man. It's a great thought, What if we were just able to look at the world as this is our nation instead of like, oh, America, the world, humanity. And I think it's a beautiful idea. I don't know if we're in a place right now where we can feasibly rely. Like, how do we trust that that's going to occur if we're able to, if you open up the borders, how do you assure people that everybody's just, that if it's a free for all, that everybody's just going to be good to one another? I don't know how that ends. I mean, I remember if you look at even like the story in the Bible, and even if you don't believe in the Bible, which is fine if you don't, but if you just look at it as a fable, as a example, they had Cain and Abel, they had Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, 4 people on earth, and one of the brothers killed the other one. Cain killed Abel, I believe. So at one point you had 4 people, and one of them killed another person. That's 4 people. So at one point, you only have 4 people. One of them's a murderer. That's risky, bro. That's risky. And that's a buddy of mine, Matt Knutson, has a great joke about that. And that idea is his premise. You can look that up, though. Matt Knutson talks about how one point in time, 25% of the population were murderers, if you believe in the Bible. All right, let's keep it cruising here. What do we have? All right, here we go.
Hey, Theo. It's Ethan. Love the podcast.
Hey, Ethan. I like that name, Ethan. Onward. Thank you, Ethan.
Yeah, I'm calling because I'm married for about 4 years to this woman who doesn't really have sex with me anymore.
Wow. That is, it sounds like most marriages probably. My thoughts though, honestly, lucky you, dude. Sex sometimes, overrated, bro. Onward.
I recently got into really good shape, super healthy, getting a lot of attention from other girls, and my sex drive has gone up. But my wife isn't really into it, like maybe once every 3 months, and it's really kind of over and done with fast.
Okay, so his wife only wants him, he said, about once every 3 months. Okay. So I can imagine that's probably got to not make you feel very good, you know? Or at least it's got to really diminish the returns on you guys' love there, probably, if she doesn't even feel attracted to you. Onward.
So I kind of was lacking, so I resorted to trying to find someone outside of the relationship to fulfill that need. Anyways, I met this girl, we started talking, and like right from the get-go, it was fucking amazing. She's incredible. Every message was perfect. There was so much momentum. It was effortless. It was awesome. So that's been going on for like 5 weeks now.
Okay, so you got your dinner at the house and you been looking at the candy. That's what that sounds like. Let's hear a little bit more.
I met this girl twice. We never had sex, but that's kind of the whole intent behind it. But now this girl means so much to me that I don't know what to do. Okay,
so I'm just going to stop you there for just a second or pause you. So you met this girl twice. You've been texting a lot. You met her twice. There's the intent for sex. Hasn't happened yet. And you're saying you care about her so much. And that sounds confusing to me. I mean, I understand that it can feel real to you, but it sounds from an outsider's perspective, which you're trying to get here, I assume, that that it can't be that you care about her so much, because care, I would feel like, takes more time to actually establish itself. So there's probably a strong bit of infatuation, unless you feel so uncared for by your wife that any care at all here is really fulfilling that so much that it feels like a ton of care, or it actually feels like care and not infatuation. Onward.
And I know it's probably common that a dude just finds another girl and falls in love with her for whatever reason because of what's lacking in his life. But I actually addressed the whole sex thing with my wife recently, and she confirmed that she's just not really into it. Had a panic attack a couple nights ago thinking about it. Again, woke up in the middle of the night vomiting from anxiety, just because I feel like I'm floating in an emptiness between two people who want me for different reasons, and no one actually wants me for who I am as a whole.
Wow. I mean, we just went through like an emotional Star Wars right there. So you got anxiety from what's going on here. You talked to your wife about it. I'm assuming you talked to her about the sex part and not about the part that you have, this little kitty on the side. You trying to pet this side kitty, and I've been out there. Look, man, I've had trouble in relationships in the past if I don't get in them. Commitment issues, and you start getting confused in your feelings. You want to touch that side kitty, when you want to, you might be even sitting in the living room with your family, but you reaching your hand out back the window and you petting yard animals. You feel me? You reaching for them soft, wet yard animals. And that can happen, man. And it sounds like you're starting to look for that. Because if you have this in this woman, then you're starting to feel that. You've talked to your wife. Now you're having anxiety. You're vomiting in the night. I mean, that could be. I mean, if you eat a lot of times peanut butter and jelly, having that before you go to bed can really make you vomit. But especially if it's on raisin bread, because a lot of raisins in raisin bread can be rotten. I don't know if you guys knew that. A friend of mine just told me that recently. Anyhow, dude, it sounds like you. Let's listen to the rest of this. Onward.
And this other girl kind of fell for me really hard, and I did for her, and I think it threatened our own situations. So we're figuring that out, but I'm just really afraid she's gonna ditch me. And I just want to keep her in my life in some way, even if we're not having sex. But just wondering if you had any advice on how I can handle this. I have no idea. Tried everything. Don't know what to do.
Okay, man. I appreciate you calling. I do want to say that, man. First and foremost, I appreciate you calling. You like this girl, it sounds like, the side kitty. You found some love or excitement, and maybe that's missing from your relationship, and that's why it feels so grandiose. I think you got to ask yourself, do you love your wife, and do you want to be with your wife? If not, and to me from this call, I'm not trying to give you advice, but it sounds like you're not getting what you need there. And at a certain point, there's a couple solutions or a couple of directions. You can try to get some therapy for you and her together. You can try to get some therapy for yourself, because are you trying to solve the problem with your wife, or are you trying to cure the issue with your wife by reaching outside of your marriage? That's kind of the deal, And I would think about it in the way, try and treat your wife the way that you would want to be treated. So say the roles are reversed and your wife has the same, you're not sexually attracted to her and she's having these thoughts and feelings and she's talking to somebody else. How would you best like it and be understanding for her to deal with you? And then that's the way I would go at it and deal with her. Because you're not going to be able to keep somebody around. You asked, how do I keep this woman around on the side? You're not going to be able to do that just as a friend, because you'll end up banging them. You will end up banging them or, laying next to them and jerking off or something or doing something, just letting, your innards start to really express themselves, let your dick stand up. So you got to keep that in your head, man. If you hang out with wool, you're going to lay your head on it. That's what they say. That's what they say, man. They say the man that sleeps with sheeps skeets with sheeps. So remember that, man. Keep that in your head. If you hang out with the wool, you're going to lay your head on it. Rarely do you see a man walking around with a pillow and then come nighttime, he just set the pillow in a briefcase or something. No. But it sounds like infatuation, man. It sounds like you should either try to work things out with your wife or just leave her, man. Maybe, realistically, you probably are not in love with your wife. It doesn't sound like you are in love with your wife. It sounds like you were at one time, but I don't know if that is that time anymore. And you talked for a second about taking care of your body, but are you taking care only of the outside? That's it. That's what I'm a little bit worried about, So I'd look inside and really ask yourself some questions. And that anxiety, that vomit, like the only thing that can be coming from is your actions are probably stirring up inside of you and making your body and your spirit all squirrely. Because if you're just talking to your wife about the sex part, but then you're using that conversation to go then and justify your actions, it's not. That's probably, it's probably not the coolest way to go about shit. I mean, you can cheat on your wife. You can go out and sleep around and see if that works. See if maybe that's the thing you need to do that's going to help you figure out what do you need to do. If you need to stay with your wife or if you need to go on or, but it sounds like you need to figure out that this doesn't have anything to do with your wife. I think this has to do with you. So I would start there, decide what you want. And then take the actions to make the changes. You can do it, bro. If you need to, you can do it, But yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard. It's hard to be in a relationship these days. And I think a lot of men, honestly, are not even looking really for lovers in relationships these days. I think a lot of men are looking for mothers. And I base that on the fact that I think the recent generation of men has grown up in a time when they didn't have mothers. A lot of their mothers were working, and so they didn't have the same mothership that our grandparents had, or that our parents had. So whereas our parents might have been looking for a sexual mate, that I think the men now are looking for something a little bit more along the motherly lines. And maybe you're not one of those men. Maybe you're a man that's just looking for that. You have to have that sex. And you have to have the sex in your relationship. I know you have to have it. And some people, it might only be a few months, because as you stay married, some people they just become really good friends, and sex isn't that important to them. But if you're probably, getting back into your body and taking care of yourself, then yeah, you might be, revving up that sex dragon. You might be feeding matches to that sex dragon, and then he gonna spray out, and he gonna start talking fire, and that's how your libido is getting lit up. And you switching from a 87 to a 91 octane. So you starting to run on diesel, boy, and that's what it is. I think is that you're invigorated, and you want that action again, and maybe your wife is just not full circle there. So the options are you go out and cheat, or you let your wife know what's really going on, and you stay out, and then that way you can go out and at least be with another woman, but have a clean heart about it, But good luck, man. Let us know how it goes, if you will. Once you hit the hotline back and let us know how it goes. And Trevor, too, that called in a little bit ago, I'd love you to call back and let us know about what happened in those saunas when those men was being wild. Because I've been in there, boy, and it's gorillas in the mist in there, you think it's your towel and then it's another man. Well, sometimes if he has long hair, he'll put his hair right by your hand, and you reach over to you think it's your towel, but it's his hair that he's laid out flat on the stone in there in the sauna. And then you grab his hair, and next thing you know, you pull him over by you, and you think you're just trying to get a towel to just wipe off. So a lot of trickery and miscreancy going on out there. The Disney Vietnamese. I like that. All right, let's keep it moving here, man. Let's hit another question right here. Let's hear it.
Hey, Theo. This is Derek. I'm from Hilo, Hawaii.
Ooh, Derek from Hilo, Hawaii. Pineapple country, huh? What's up, you little napple? They call them napples out there. People that live in Hawaii. Onward.
And I was just listening to your last podcast, and you got talking about how you might just cut off your balls. You might cut off your dick, and you feel like you get nothing done because of that. And I had to stop the podcast right there and call you, because that is crazy, man. You can't think you would do nothing.
Now, he's referring, I thought many times that my penis and my junk, nuts, and whatever else is in your nut sack. They say nuts, but it feels like, honestly, there's more in there. And I've thought for a long time that if I didn't have that, if I didn't have my penis and nuts, that I could function better, that I would get more work done, because I think we're starting to become, and I believe that, Richard, and I said that I would mail them, or Derek, sorry, I said that I would mail them to Africa or to, a different country, not Africa, or Africa or a different country. And because that would be a meal. You can easily feed a family of 3 or 4 with the meat that is inside of your cock and your scrotum. And I'm not trying to be disgusting, but that's real. In America, we cut off body parts like it's nothing. Somebody gets a little bit of gangrene, they lop their leg off. But whereas you don't realize is that in India, that'll feed a fucking farmer. That'll feed a farmer's family. That'll feed a farmer's family for filling their falafels. Which this is starting to sound like that'll feed a farmer's family for filling their falafels. This is starting to sound like a tongue twister. That'll feed a farmer's family for filling their falafels. That'll feed a farmer's family for filling their falafels. Yeah, it's pretty fun one and an easy one. I think you could kind of a starter tongue twister. But yeah, I think you could cut it off and mail it, Derek. And I don't see a problem with that. I don't see a problem with providing some light food or light fare to some others who are in need. And if I don't want my penis and I don't want my nuts anymore, but let's hear the rest.
You would get nothing done without your balls and dick. Your motivating factor for life would be over. What would be the reason to live? What would be the reason to live?
Okay. I'll answer that for you. The reason to live then would be, I think we're starting to metastasize as humans. We're starting to morph some. where yes, it used to be that to procreate was our main necessity, but is it still? You know, we have a lot of people in the world. We are at a level, especially in America, of pretty high comfort. You know, we are pretty comfortable. Even if we're, I feel like, wealthy or poor, we are at least, you can be just lazy and, you know, collect money or get your money, and you can still be comfortable. You can still have a bed and air conditioning and a phone and cable, and you can have food and you can be comfortable. So at that point, are we really looking to procreate as much as we are just looking to enjoy our comforts? I almost feel like, sadly, in this country, that's one of the infestations that we have, is that we're just too comfortable. And we're starting to, as humans in America, we're starting to metastasize, or we're starting to evolve into creatures that it's just like, what's the best way we can enjoy our comfort, or the best way that we can work harder, or the best way that we can, but not work harder like in the sense that I need to be in the wild hunting boars or hunting, you know, violent squirrels or flocks of squirrels or gangs of squirrels, but in the sense that I need to be doing, you know, computer work or podcasting or, you know, stuff that I don't even need my dick and nuts for, you know, stuff that I need just my brain and just my ideas for. So I feel like that's where we're at a little bit. So if I didn't have this hindrance of meat between my legs, this meal, and I say meal because I got a decent dick, you know, I got some swell cock for a man. And if I'm just carrying it around, and somebody else in another country this could be a feast for them, a small feast, but a feast for maybe at least a beautiful Valentine's dinner or something, if somebody wants to enjoy themselves with their friend or lover. But, you know, then that's me being greedy. And if my penis wasn't always taking my thoughts, because I'll start getting some good ideas and doing work, and my penis is like, hey, don't you want to, you know, go see if there's some cooter across the street? Oh, what if there's some cooter downstairs? Huh? Have you thought about that recently? Yeah, my penis starts telling me all that. You know, it's cooter hungry. And it'd be nice sometimes to stop that hunger, you know, to satisfy it and just to eliminate it. So then I could just stay in my realm of work and what I feel like would be to do my best work and to focus more on the things that help me feel good about myself, like caring about others, you know, loving my friends and family, and trying to be of service. You know, those things are what really make me feel good. So I don't know, man. It's interesting. But I feel like getting rid of it, that's what it would do, man. It would really lift me up as a man, as a person. I really do. What else do we have here? You know what? I got a couple of other good calls, but I'm going to hit them next week, man. Just because it's getting late. It's 12:45 here. And I know some of you guys are like, well, what, dude, what, we listening? What? Well, I'm sorry, man. You know, I love you. I'm doing the best that I can. I am actually looking forward to hopefully getting some new studio environment in Los Angeles this week. So hopefully that will come to fruition. But I'm really excited about it. But I appreciate the calls, man, and I thank you for the calls. And again, I really thank you. I appreciate people that are calling in and sharing what's going on in their lives. And I don't have any answers. All I have are some suggestions and what I can share with you. But that's it, man. Coming to you from Orlando. I didn't have any intro or outro music this week. I'll get back to it, I promise. But you can hit the hotline. And if you have any other thoughts on anything that we talked about or brought up, please share them. My number is 985-664-9503. And it's up to 3 minutes. You can talk on there. And if you don't get it all in, then call back. But try to get it all in 3 minutes. You know what I'm saying? But I did get some other great calls. I'm going to use them. I'm just not going to be able to use them on this episode. But thank you guys so much. Have a great week. It's July, you know? It's summer. It's hot as hell, dude. It's hot as hell. So get in the pool, spray some water on your friend, bring a water bottle, squirt somebody. You know what I'm saying? Brush your teeth, though. Brush your teeth, hug somebody. Won't you do that? Won't you surprise somebody today and hug them? Hug them, motherfucker. You feel me? Hug them, motherfucker. That's what I would love to see, these gangs. I get tired of watch the news in New Orleans and I see these people showing up just beating each other. And I would love to see some, two gangbangers just show up and just hug the fuck out of somebody. Like, damn, motherfucker, you just got hugged. Damn, you feel that joy? And that's the reality. Good to be here, guys. I'm happy to be here, man. I had a good weekend. I didn't get into a ton of stuff, I didn't get into the news, the Trump Jr., Trumpelstiltskin. Somebody took a Trump in my yard, bro. It's like the news, honestly, it's like the news has Asperger's and they start flopping off, When I was growing up, they had this boy in my neighborhood. And they called him One Love. That was his name. And he was mentally handicapped. And they called him One Love. And he would just stand by his house, by the porch, and all day he just yelled, one more day, I can't wait. That's what he said. One more day, I can't wait. And that's all he said, man. That's all he ever said. There was a couple of months where he recited a few Aerosmith lyrics. And I don't know what got into him. I think that was around when Aerosmith and Guns N' Roses were touring together. So he might have caught some of the excitement. Even through his disability, some of the excitement might have found its way through his disability into his brain and into his livelihood. And I remember that was a beautiful time, when he would set off a little bit of "Dude Looks Like a Lady," and that got everybody in the neighborhood kind of fired up. But One Love, he had that Asperger's. He had something, he had a little bit of, he had something. He was caught hard. He was caught hard by the elements. He's one of God's favorites, they call him sometimes, people that have some disabilities. And a beautiful boy, and I think the daddy had left him, and so it was just, I think it was just maybe his mother and his grandmother raising him. But anyhow, he had that. And that's what I think of the news today. It's Asperger's. It is 24 hours a day Asperger's. They have just got to the point where they don't have any brain left, or very little brain, and they're just yelling the same things over and over again. Whether you believe things they're saying or not, it's just ridiculous. It's Asperger's at this point. And that's why I think the only safe places to get your news anymore are from dreams, rumors, hearsay, smoke signals, and Ouija boards. Homemade Ouija boards too, not the store-bought ones, because those are commercialized and who knows who's behind them. Probably Nike, okay? But yeah, so I'm staying out of the news. What else am I doing, dude? Let me look here. Oh, I did see one thing in the news about USA Today had an article, okay? USA Today had an article where people were complaining about the lack of women and no lead actors of color in Dunkirk. And Dunkirk is a film that's out right now. Dunkirk, it's amazing. And guess what? I'm sorry, but there's white people in it. It's a story about how white people attacked some other white people, and then those white people were beating them up, and then some good white people came and rescued those original white people. And I just want to apologize, I think, on a national basis for being an adult white male. It is, I know we're not allowed to be that anymore, and I'm sorry. I mean, it'll probably only be another 50 years that I'll be alive, so you won't have to, so just bear with me. Bear with me, humanity, And I'm all about equality, yeah, but I don't like forced film casting. I don't like it, because honestly, I never got over Black Annie. I never got over Black Annie. I don't know if you've seen Annie. The first one, was okay. Black Annie, nobody liked it. Even black people were like, why do we have to be Black Annie? I just don't like it, man. What's next, What's next? Are we going to do a Above the Rim with white people or Vietnamese people? I mean, if we're going to be, if we're going to do it, then let's do it. But let's don't, I mean, you can't, Dunkirk, amazing movie. If you haven't seen it, Best movie I've seen since Shawshank Redemptions. And that's when Andy Dufresne sneaks through the shit pipe and catches his freedom that he is well deserved of, and Brooks was here. But anyhow, I just can't believe this. You know, Dunkirk's an amazing film. Check it out. But this article, USA Today, complaining about lack of women. Where are you going to put? I mean, there were some women. There were nurses. There were these men's mothers that were behind them that you could tell they wanted to get home to see their mothers and wives. There were women there in spirit. I don't see a ton of men in the movie A Girl's Trip, you know. But are men complaining about it? No. Because that's fine. Just God, man. Come on, you know. Next thing, they'll be complaining if you don't have a woman trapped inside of your body, if you're not transgender, if you don't have, you know, then people are gonna be complaining. People are gonna meet you on the street and be like, "Oh, come on, where you don't have a woman trapped inside of you? What's going on with you, boy?" I mean, it's just ridiculous, and that's why I say about the news, man. It's Asperger's. You think anybody really believes this? No. That's the thing. And they get me to talk about it. They get me to think about it and fired up, you know. But they can only fool you for so long with the news. They can only fool you for so long, you know. I mean, at a certain point, it's almost nice to know that the news is just bullshit, you know. That it's just not real anymore, that it's finally you realize that it's not good for you. You know, you just realize that it's not even adding value to your life, which I think that's what the news used to do, was have an added value. And if something's not adding value, I mean, that's when it's time to let it go. But anyhow, I can't wait to see Dunkirk 2, you know, starring Charlize Theron and Lena Dunham. You know, can't wait to see it, dude. When they get attacked by a group of transgender aliens, fortunately, they get rescued by Ezekiel Elliott and who else? Catwoman, whoever Catwoman is. So look forward to that sequel, Dunkirk 2. What else, man? I've been working out a little bit. I'm in pain. I don't know if you've ever been in that much pain. Bad pain. Getting older pain. This is, all of a sudden, this sounds like one of those commercials that you hear on a podcast. Man, I've been in pain recently. Have you been in pain? Oh, you know what helps me? Unpain. Unpain.com/Theo. I thought I was in shape. That's what I'm starting to realize. I thought I was in shape. You know, I thought I was a shape. If you'd have picked a shape and said, well, what shape are you? I would have named a shape. Oh, I'm a triangle, you know, or I'm a lexicon, you know, or I'm an octagon. But now I don't even know if I'm in a shape anymore. I feel like I'm just sort of something that's kind of piecemeal, you know, just don't have a lot of shape going on in me at this point, you know. I've been in a lot of pain. My legs, I've been seeing a trainer, beautiful young lady named Molly. Great trainer and a good friend, and she's a sweetheart. She works with me. She's very supportive, which is what your trainer should be. You know, they should be supportive, I feel. But man, I mean, muscles. I apparently have a muscle going from like my ankle to my nuts, bruh. Because every time I kind of turn my knee out a little bit, you can feel a pull, kind of an ankle to nut, sort of that whole transcontinental railroad right there. You can hear it almost tighten up. Like if I pulled a violin stick across the inside of my leg at that point, I mean, I might just Beethoven you. You know what I'm saying? I might just hit you with that Brahms lullaby. What else, man? I had a date this weekend. I hit you with the sensual update. Still been struggling there with the dark arts on my end, you know. And some of you guys know, if you're longtime listeners, that I've, you know, often dealt back and forth with, dealing with masturbatory activities and, you know, falling victim to the habit of pornography. And yeah, you know, and I hit some turmoil there. I don't want it anymore, you know, but I still find myself doing it. And at that point, for me, it's not a good habit. For me, it's just not a good habit at that point, you know, and it's not really a habit anymore. at that point, it's coming something beyond that, because a habit maybe is something you could go do to enjoy yourself that can be positive. But I guess you can have a bad habit, and I guess maybe that's what it's become, is just a bad habit. But I like to stay out of it. You know, in the internet, they keep making more pornography. Like, what has to happen to have made enough? You know what I'm saying? Does somebody, it's almost like they just need to, you know, you need to have a couple of naked dudes driving a truck with a big, you know, cock on the front of it, and then just have like a huge orifice in the middle of the street, and them just drive it into it at top speed, kind of like on Back to the Future, and something's tied to the clock tower and the whole reaction, and then pornography breaks down. But I get caught up there, man. You know, I get caught up there sometimes, falling into it, and then that kind of kills some of my libido and makes me not present when I'm involved with real humans. So, not to get too interpersonal right there, but that's just, you know, part of what's going on. But yeah, I had a little bit of a date this weekend, and it was nice, man. I got some feelings. You know, I found myself getting some feelings, and I got nervous too about having feelings. And so I was thinking a lot about that, you know, about if I feel somebody cares about me, how do I feel then? And I started to realize that I don't really know what it's like to let someone care about me, you know? I don't know how to do it. You know, when someone usually talks about how they care about me, it's almost like I can't even hear them. And I know this, to some of you guys, this is going to sound crazy. You're like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. And that's fine. You know, I'm not trying to explain everybody's point of view. This is just for me. And I can hear what they're saying audibly, but something inside of me shuts off where I can't feel what they're saying as they say it. So it's like I can't hear them and feel what they're saying at the same time, if that makes any sense. Like if someone expresses care for me, I don't really know how to take it in, you know? And it's something that I think I got to get to the bottom of if I'm going to be in a comfortable relationship environment. You know, and I wish I could explain it a little bit better than that, but I just realized that. I realized that I don't know how to be cared for by somebody, you know? I just don't know how, because someone tells me they care, I can't feel them while I'm listening. I can't feel and listen at the same time. It's almost like I can't feel cared for, you know? I can recognize when somebody cares, but I can't feel it very well at all. I can think back later on it myself and feel it some, but I can't feel it in the moment. And I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, you know, but I like to check in with you guys and let you know what's going on with me. And some of the stuff people say, well, that's kind of a sad thought, or well, that's not sad really. You know, I don't think something's sad just because it's real. You know, I think what's real is what's most important, you know, or I try to make that the case in my life, you know. But yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to be on the level with you guys. We get a lot of callers here that put some of their feelings and thoughts out there, and so I don't want to be not contributing in that regard, you know. I want to have some skin in the game. But yeah, I just notice that, man. If somebody cares about me, it's hard for me to actually feel that care. It's like my sensors are a little bit off. I can't explain it 100%, but I can explain it as much percent as I just explained it. That's for dang sure. Guys, we got some good calls. We got a man calling in about keeping my nuts. You know, I talked about donating my nuts to science or charity, or, you know, part of my body is a meal to a foreign country, because it's hard sometimes to know people are starving and to know that you're carrying around physical items on your body or pieces of yourself that you don't think you even are benefiting the most from, and you feel like that they would almost be better served as a meal. And I know that sounds crazy, but if we'd all just been on a plane crash right now, and I'm the one serving my nuts to somebody, I bet you would all be standing in line. Okay, so don't say somebody's nuts just because, well, literally here, but don't say somebody's crazy just because they're hypothesizing something based off of reality and serious feelings. Outside of that, I got a couple of callers that called in about issues on Greyhound buses. We've all been there. I had a man take me behind a building and said he wanted to show me some artwork, and it was cock. And that was at a Greyhound bus down there in Gulfport, Mississippi. I had another dude who filled a gun with cocaine and said he was going to blow his brains out, shoot himself right up the nostril with a gun full of cocaine and a bullet. I have no idea what happened to that guy. Literally, he got off this Greyhound, never saw that man again. We got another call about a relationship. We got another call about somebody sitting in a sauna with someone else who was spraying out, and we're going to get into those calls right now. First, I want to tell you some dates. This coming Saturday, I'll be in Montreal, July 29th, 10 p.m. at Club Soda. That's where I'm performing. I'm hoping to also get on a show with Ari Shafir, but I don't know that yet. August 10th through 13th, Dallas. Come show some love if you're even close at the Addison Improv. Okay? September 21st through 24th, I'm at Hilarities in Cleveland. So come see that nasty. September 6th through the 9th, I'm at Cap City in Austin, Texas. You can come see that. And there's a rumor that Huntsville, Alabama is going to be on the schedule. And there's also a rumor that in late August, we're going to have a date in Vancouver. I'm trying to find a theater that seats about 50. Small theater. It's my first time there. If you know of one, please hit me up and recommend it. Also, this week on Allegedly, the Hollywood podcast that I do with my co-host Matthew Cole Weiss, we have James Vanderbeek. And a lot of women pleasured themselves and had posters and drawings of him up in their lives when they were young. We got him in, and so we're excited about that. You know him from Dawson's Creek, and he's also playing Diplo in a new project on Viceland. So you can check that out, and we are excited to have that man coming in the studio. So he's on there, and that'll go up this Tuesday, the 25th. Okay, man, I think that brings us to everything. As you can see, if you're on YouTube right now, you can see I got the Keeping My Squad Hydrated print. That's right behind me. Beautiful prints. You can get those online, theovon.com/store. I got this beautiful picture of Chris Farley right here, who died of overdose. Very sad. One of the funniest ever. But I appreciate you guys calling in, man. Yeah, that's kind of all that went on this weekend, And that was it, man. I've just been rolling my legs that I had to use this leg roller because I've been in so much pain. Just not realizing that suddenly I am getting older. That my body is it's not a wonderland anymore. It's kind of like a local fair. It's like a local small town carnival where there's people in the back smoking cigarettes and, hiding dope and potted plants and stealing from children, things like that, stealing shit out of your car while you're out there playing games at the shoot 'em up duck game. So it's more of my body is a wonderland, and now it's more of my body is a local fair or even just a school fair where the best thing to have is some jump house and some confetti eggs, and it's that one chance for people to throw confetti eggs at that shitty teacher that they have. Did you ever have that fair? I did. All right, guys, let's get to some calls, man. I really appreciate it. I had some great ones last week, and this is kind of a follow-up one that's been going on. This topic has been going on a little bit, and let's get into it. Here we go.
Hey, what's up, Theo? My name is Clinton, and love your podcast, dude. I was just calling about cutting your balls off and everything.
This is Clinton here, calling about cutting my balls off. Onward, Clinton.
And I totally understand, and the focus that could be acquired if you lose those balls and stop worrying about jizzing all over boobs and stuff. But I got a little experience with that. I was, on them opiates for a while, and one thing that...
Okay, and this is Clinton on opiates, and he's in reference to, over the past few weeks, I've talked about thinking my libido gets in the way of my livelihood, of my desire to work and to be creative. And I've thought, and I've long thought, and I've just voiced it recently, that if I were to eliminate my weenie and scrotum and whatever's in my scrotum, nuts, and more. There's more in your nuts than just nuts in there. They don't tell you whatever else is in there, but there's extra in there. But if I were to, take that off of my body, have it removed and mailed off to another country, where they could even use it as a delectable, as a meal for people that are starving, or as just something for science if they need to, I've thought that would be better use than to be carrying this meal around between my legs. But anyway, this is Clinton on opiates, or has been on opiates, and he's talking about it. Here we go.
But I got a little experience with that. I was, on them opiates for a while, and one thing that those do is they just take away your sex drive entirely. And, in the beginning, that was great. It was great for focus. I'm a musician, helped me focus a lot on my career.
This is musical Clinton. Onward.
And on that art form. But the thing is, man, that focus, it turns into something different because your balls are part of your heart. You need your heart to make art.
Okay, we got Clinton, opiates, talking about balls, cutting them off. You need your heart to make art. This is getting a little bit Dr. Seussy, but I'm riding your vibe. Let's finish it out here.
And if you're just going straight out of the brain, and there's no semen flowing in those thoughts, then it's going to be obvious, and you're going to come to a point where you just don't feel inspired. So I know it seems like something that's just in the way and something that's annoying, but you just got to learn to deal with it and control it or whatever, do the best you can.
Thank you, Clinton. I appreciate the call, man. And sometimes I think I need this. I need people to fortify when I'm, not thinking the best thoughts for myself, because, this is the second caller, maybe the third even we've had about, me not wanting to donate part of my body or crotch to, to get rid of my libido. And your take on it is appreciated, man. So you're saying that you eliminated your sex drive using opiates, long-term use or semi-long-term use. And at first it was good because it helped you focus on your music, but then it got bad because it killed your libido so much that that wasn't part of your art, your manliness or your vibe, your nut stream. And that's valid, man. I mean, I guess maybe you're right. Maybe if I didn't have, I could start to feel more effeminate, or just emasculated, which would just be feeling the loss of a masculinity and not even feeling effeminate, really just feeling the loss of my manhood. Maybe that would really bring me down as a person, Yeah, my art might not have a direction it was coming from. It might not be coming from a man's direction. So those are good points, man, and I appreciate that. Maybe it's just some stuff I'm going through where I just, I'm trying to find excuses for not getting my work done. And I blame some of those things on the fact that, sometimes I have a libido that, I want to look at the paperwork, but my libido wants to look at that ass, or be a part of some tits that's on the internet, or be looking at some of these ladies that's showing their bung holes or, being wild, people that's trying to show you their, just show you all their ideas, show you all their ideas that they keep in their pants. And sometimes I think, that just distracts me. But I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you thinking about it, and I appreciate you, having that vote of confidence. And I appreciate you, it sounds like the opiates were part of your past. So I appreciate you getting through that, and good luck with that, man. I hope that keeps going well. And good luck with your music, man. All right. So that's that. Maybe we keep the nuts, and maybe I just get over that hump. And I think maybe this is something I could talk to a therapist about, why I even feel that way, why I even feel that desire. Let's take another call here.
What up, Mr. Theo? This is your boy, Travis.
Your boy, Travis. Now, I knew a boy growing up named Ravis, and it was supposed to be Travis, but they didn't write all the letters on the certificate when he was born, and he was Ravis. But this is Travis. Take it away, Travis.
Calling from Portland, Oregon. Calling about some crazy bus rides.
Crazy bus rides. Now, I'm going to stop you right there because I've had some. I used to work on a soybean, cotton, and corn farm along the Mississippi-Louisiana border, right along the Mississippi River over there, Vidalia, Waterproof, Faraday, home of Jerry Lee Lewis, and Natchez, all in that area. It was my good friend's sister's family farm. And I And that's where I met Slack Ronnie that almost cut off my leg too, if you want to go back and listen to that story. But I noticed when I was over there that shit, dude, what are we even talking about? God, I think I just got a damn cinnamon in my brain in the shower. The water's been kind of dirty. Let's hear this one more time, dude.
About some crazy bus rides.
Oh, bus rides. So, dude, when I would bus ride, I would ride from down there in Louisiana where I lived up to the farm to work. And on that bus, man, they always had a lot of people. Here's who's on the bus. Children that are going between poor parents a lot of times are on the bus. Like a parent is like, okay, I'll send them to you. It's your weekend or your week or your summer with them. Here you go. Poor people. There's a lot of poverty on the bus. And then people that just got out of prison, jail. Also, a lot of like church groups and stuff that are trying to save money, things like that, long distance travelers that are trying to save money. So that's kind of your conglomerate you have on there. You always have an angry driver who is, it's often a black man or woman, you know, and somebody can go to bat with me on that if they want to. I'm not trying to be racist, but I'm going to be statistically accurate. Okay. I've ridden on probably 108 hounds. 108 times. It was a kind of a black hardy man or black hardy woman. One time we stopped by a man's family reunion for about 45 minutes, dude, on the way there. And everybody got out and some people were pissed and some people just smoked cigarettes and just stayed out of the heat. But I've been on those buses, man. And a lot of times they'll have a homosexual gentleman on there who's passing you notes. You know, they have a girl who's, you know, selling hats or some bullshit. Everybody's asking for money. I mean, everybody who walks to the back to go to the bathroom is asking for money. And you really are just surviving. It's basically like, it's like Survivor, that game show, but it's on a bus. And you paid for the experience. And you can also find me on Sunday night. I will troll the Greyhound Bus Help Twitter feed, and I'll retweet some tweets out of that. And it gets pretty wild. But I had a man on there take me behind a building, said he was selling artwork, and he was showing out his cock. I had another man on there who threatened a woman, said he was sick of everything, poured a bunch of cocaine into the barrel of a gun, got off the bus, said he was going to go shoot himself right in the nose. What else did we have on there, dude? I had some other fellows that sat next to me and tried to get wild. I kissed a young black gal, African-American woman on a train one time, on a bus one time, a road train. And that's pretty much it. Those are some of my stories for now. But let's hear yours. Let's take it away.
One time I was taking a bus from Sacramento back home to Portland. Greyhound, of course. Anytime you're on Greyhound, you never know what's going to happen, really.
Amen, brother. Onward.
So yeah, I was working for this guy, and I'm growing a lot of bud for him. Turned out to be a piece of shit, so I ended up taking about 1.5 pounds of bud.
Copping your rent, huh? Copping your rent's worth. Onward.
Hid it in my bag, suitcase, bottom of my suitcase. No problems. No canines, nothing.
So we got no problems. We got about 1.5 pounds of weed on a Greyhound bus, leaving a job where you didn't feel like you were appreciated. Let's keep it savvy. Go.
So the ride was smooth, but I was talking to the dude right before we even got onto the bus. We were talking about bud or whatever. And as soon as we got on the bus, we're talking this and that. He's like, yeah, man, I got a pipe, if you want to, hit in the bathroom real quick. I'm like, want that smell? Won't they smell it? He's like, nah, man.
Wow. So let me tell you, a Greyhound bus, first of all, is like a bathroom. So if you go to the bathroom on a Greyhound bus, you're going double bathroom, bro. That's double. I mean, that's like hiding in the throat of the devil and then choosing to snuggle up inside of his voice box. You feel me? Let's keep this savvy. Go.
So he hands it to me wrapped in like a bandana or something. I go into the bathroom and it's a damn meth pipe. This dude gave me a damn meth pipe.
So he hitting you with that griddle. He trying to put you on that griddle, you know? He trying to have you grill yourself. What'd you do here? Let's hear it.
I was kind of tripping. I was like, oh, I thought this dude was talking about weed. I hit the pipe and...
Okay. So you hit the pipe anyway, bruh. Look, dude, I respect it. You know, you're out there in the game. You got to, if they put you in the game, sometimes you got to dribble the ball, you know? So you're on a, but here's my question is you had 1.5 pounds of weed hidden. You know, they gave you the meth pipe. Do you have to hit? Couldn't you have just smoked a little bit of that weed? That's kind of what's wild to me about it. But let's hear it up. Sorry, go on.
I was kind of tripping. I was like, oh, I thought the dude was talking about weed. I hit the pipe, and long story short, didn't sleep the whole damn ride. And this dude, you know, he was just going back and forth, crazy stories. And anyways, man, I don't know. It was a pretty cool experience, you know.
Okay. So there you go. That was a bus experience that he had navigating the nation's roadways via auto bus. And I wonder, man, it's, you know, you get that, you know, it's one thing that's funny, and I'm going to relate to you here, and I appreciate the call, man. I do appreciate you calling and sharing. I've never been on the methamphetamines or even taken a surprise hit of it. I have a family member who smoked some meth one time and went rock climbing and actually ended up climbing their way up to a nudist colony where she and her boyfriend stayed up there and had lunch with the locals. But that was out in Arizona, outside of Tucson, I believe. Anyhow, yeah, man, you on the Greyhound bus. And sometimes what I notice is you got to fit in with your environment, okay? Because say you sit there with the dude, right? And I'm going to picture this dude. Probably white dude, dice on his neck, tatted dice, you know? Probably got a bunch of, you know, like tennis shoes, like wrapped around his neck, hanging off the laces, you know? Got 6 bandanas, got a bandana on each kneecap. You know, I mean, even his kneecaps are in rival gangs. You know, so he probably walk all bow-legged because his knees can't get along. You know, he got some kind of Jordans, you know, or double Jordans. You know, he got it all. You know, he's all clipped up and gripped up. And I can see that, you know. And if you're in that environment, sometimes if you sit next to that guy on the bus, you got to play that game. Because if you play I'm too good for this, I'm better than this, I can't relate, that's when shit gets weird. That's when the dude's like, I'm going to rob this guy, you know? And that, I think, is, that's a lot of what you see a lot of in the world today. In America, is that people can't relate to each other. Because people don't want to sit next to each other on that bus. You know, some people want to be up in first class and pretend they know what's going on in coach. You know, or vice versa. And so I think if you're on that Greyhound bus, you got to get in sometimes where you don't fit in. Because you got to get to where you're going. That, you know, sometimes the means justify the end. You know? Or the end justifies the means. I don't know what it is, bro. I might be metaphorically dyslexic. But that's real, man, and I respect it, dude. You were out there and you stayed the course and you got done what you had to do and you got where you had to go. And you caught an experience, and that's the thing. You know, I'll be on the Greyhound sometimes, and if them boys start hitting on me, them sugar boys, I'll let them hit. I'll stand in the batter's box, okay? If they hitting on me, I'll stand in the batter's box. Because the last thing I want is to get laced up on some kind of drug, and the next thing you know, I'm at some, you know, bus stop looking at artwork, and I get banged up by a couple of dudes I don't know. You know, and that's the kind of stuff that happens. Sometimes you have to fit in. You have to get in where you don't fit in. You know, and so I applaud you, man. You know, I don't, obviously, you know, the smoke and the meth, not a good idea. It doesn't sound like you're on it. You know, and I'd hope that you're not. But you know, it doesn't sound like you had 1.5 pounds of weed and, you know, just some meth showed up, so you opted for that. But whatever, you fit in where you had to fit in. Because it probably would have been scary as hell sleeping all night next to old dude, and you don't know what he's thinking about. Because 1 out of 70 people on the Greyhound just got out of prison, dude. Prison. I'm not talking about, you know, down the street lockup. I'm talking about one of these prisons that they pick them up in a rural town, and then they're on the bus. Some of the first people they ever see are on a Greyhound bus. You know? I mean, I think every Greyhound bus should have to pull in to wherever they produce the show Forensic Files and get tested. Because we could solve half of the nation's murders right there. Thank you for going hound. Let's hit this next call right here. And Pop.
Hey, Theo, this is Trevor from California again. I got cut off because I was rambling too much in that last message, but I think I cut off right where the first story of the sauna interaction. So, again, I was sitting in the sauna, reading my books, and a guy comes in, older guy comes in.
Okay, this is Trevor. Trevor had actually called in last week about nationalism. We'd had a discussion about that, and then he'd said that some men had really approached him in some saunas at different times. And Trevor believes in one world and globalization, and the fact that we should, and I'm paraphrasing here, Trevor, and this is one of the problems with not having a back and forth call ability, which we are trying to get. I promise you, I'm trying to get it. But one of the problems with not having that is that I have to paraphrase sometimes. But Trevor, believes in that one world, that globalization, the fact that we can all get along together. But I asked him, he had mentioned that he had been in some saunas where men was getting gentle, where men was, letting their own nature start to flourish in front of him. And so I want to hear a little bit more about that. So let's go.
Reading my books, and a guy comes in, older guy comes in, and just in the peripheral, in the corner of the eye type stuff. And anyway, so I'm sitting there reading my book, the guy comes in, I'm just reading normally, and then I hear a little bit of commotion over there. I look over, and the guy's basically jacking it in the corner.
So this man's jerking it out. This man's, you know what I'm saying, dust in that chair leg, if you will, in the corner of this sauna. All right, onward.
Just right in front of me, and I'm sitting there reading a book, and I say to the guy, "What are you doing?" And the guy looks up at me.
Oh, so you played the old "I don't know" card, the old "What are you doing?" Let's go.
And literally responds. I thought he was just going to stop, but he doesn't really stop. But he says, "It's okay." And I said, "No, it's not." And I walked out, and
wow. So he said, "It's okay." You said, "No, it's not." It's really kind of great because it sounds like an after school, one of those videos you see of what to do if somebody's jerking off in the sauna. And they used to do act outs too. In our town, they didn't have a lot of the video, so they would bring this sexual deviance group from the local jail when I was young, and they would act out different scenarios and teach you how to say no and how to not let somebody, beat you up or molest you or something like that, and they would do like a performance art of it. Pretty wild because you had these men who were in their 40s and 50s dressed up like young kids and stuff, but I guess it was effective. I don't even know. But anyhow, so this man was spraying out or finding, searching himself for nut via his pleasure zones, and you didn't want it. You didn't want it. You called him out on it. And then what happened? Let's hear more.
Yeah, I told the owner of the sauna that, hey, there's a dude just kind of exposing himself and being inappropriate.
Okay, so I'll just stop you there. So you ratted him out. You ratted him out, and I get it. It's a sauna. You're paying to be there. Some dudes, peeking. Some dude's peeking on his, some dude's peeking out with his own seed. Some dude's playing lighthouse with his body, making lighthouse out of his crotch. Then yeah, I get it, man. And to rat him out to the manager, I think you have to really kind of maybe let him learn his lesson in there. And somebody's gonna teach him that that's not appropriate. And sometimes that's what those people need to learn. Because what does the man do when you go tell the YMCA director? He throws him out. And then this man goes jerky. Captain Jerko goes back to his car and just puts another X on a building where he's not allowed to jerk off. Okay? Well, what happens, Trevor, when he gets all the X's filled in on his little jerk off bingo card? You know what I'm saying? When he hits that blackout. Then the only space left to jerk off is outdoors. And that's when that's when I think it escalates and anything can be possible. So maybe you should have taught that dude, try to teach him a little something. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know how you do that. You could have used like some some mind tricks or really set him straight. But maybe you should have taught him a little lesson. I appreciate you sharing the call, though. To take it back to a globalization now, Trevor, you got to think about this. If we just let everybody in all the time, everybody going to be jerking off in your sauna. Imagine you're in your sauna, bro. You're trying to read a book. You having them luxuries. I call that luxuries, man. When you're in a homemade hot room, when you got your own little private Tahiti, when you got a 15 square foot Tahiti inside of a gym and you're reading a book, novella and up, and they got another man next to you jerking off that you don't know. I mean, that's a luxury. So to think that that's occurring, man, if we go to globalization, bro, everybody's going to be doing that. You can have people banging on the door outside of that who want a piece of your luxury. And, I think that's one thing about that we didn't get to discuss, and I'd love to discuss it in the future. I know this is a one-sided discussion. I'm not trying to preach at you or judge you or make fun of you, Trevor. I appreciate you calling. But we got to be willing to share if we're going to care, we got to share. If we're going to care, we got to share, dude. And are we really willing to share? Are the comfortable really willing to share? I don't know, man. But I appreciate that call, man. I appreciate that call 100%. All right, let's get a little bit of diversification this evening and crack into this twisted nutshell right here that just fell off the world branch into our ear earth. You feel me? Let's catch this nut, dude. Let's catch this nut in our ears. You know what I'm saying? Let's listen to the sweet skeet sounds of this young lady right here hitting the hotline. Thank you.
Hey, Theo. It's Chrissy calling from Raleigh, North Carolina. And my husband and I love your show. We tune into it as often as we can.
Okay, we got Prissy or Chrissy. I couldn't hear which one fully, but Prissy or Chrissy. Thank you guys for hitting the hotline. Let's go.
And I really appreciate how you talk a lot and have mentioned in the past many times about maturing emotionally and the importance of really like healing relationships and strengthening relationships with other people.
Well, yeah, certainly. I appreciate you saying that. I bring it up a good bit. I'm trying to learn, and I often don't think I'm doing a good job, but I am trying. I'm making an effort. I feel like it's important. Let's keep going.
And that's like exactly what my husband and I have been going through. We just kind of hit a point where we had to up our level of communication and stop making so many assumptions about why the other one was doing or saying what they were doing and really strip down to the core love that's between us and to up our communication in order to better understand one another and, again, drop those assumptions.
Yeah. I mean, when people get too close, sometimes it's weird. You get too close, you spend too much time together, and you almost get too used to each other in a way. Where if anything feels a little bit off, then that becomes an issue. Where normally, if you aren't spending too much time together, then if something's a little off, you don't matter. It doesn't matter as much because you still appreciate it because you're still you're just happy to be around the person. So sometimes that can be just a matter of a length of time, I think. But then also you're talking to a guy who, hasn't been in a committed relationship successfully. What I consider success. Haven't been really honest in any committed relationship. I don't think I've been in, and I don't think I've allowed myself really to be in them at a lot of times wholeheartedly. Onward.
So my question to you is this. So through this communication, my husband and I have both agreed to kind of call each other out on things, to just point out where we might be making assumptions about the other person or making reactions or saying or doing things that aren't necessarily kind or loving as a result of misunderstanding one another. So kind of like pointing out each other's shortcomings. And we both agreed to do this for one another. However, when I try to do this for my husband, in the moment, he really doesn't want to hear it, and he fights against it and almost makes it seem like I'm the one that's being unkind when all that I'm doing is showing him what he has asked me to show him.
Wow. First of all, this sounds like it should be recorded and put onto the web for other people to enjoy. Two people agreeing to expose each other's shortcomings at the moment that those shortcomings come to a head, at the moment those shortcomings bubble to the top of the pot, sounds extremely dangerous. This sounds North Korean. This sounds like a dumpster fire, if you will, dude. This sounds like two cats, just ripping each other's hair out, in a dumpster, while another man is outside of the dumpster filling the dumpster up with water and gasoline. This just sounds like a danger, where danger lurks. Like, say if somebody's like, hey, come over here. And I'm like, what's over there? And they're like, danger lurks over here. And then I get over there, I would see you guys doing this. That's what this seems like to me. I'm going to hear you out here. Thanks for the call. Onward.
Which outside of that moment, he's open to hearing about, but in the moment, which is where we're trying to, nip things in the bud a little bit, he just doesn't really want to hear it. He takes it as me being critical or putting him down or saying something rude or mean to him or harsh. It's just hard for him to hear it when I'm not.
Okay, and I'll stop right there, and I appreciate the call. I mean, it's a real thing. It's like you guys are trying to, solve some of your relationship issues by, when things arise that you already have agreed bug you to bring it up, to hit that button right then, But it sounds like that just can't. I don't know how that can it sounds like it's just going to lead to an endless world of arguing and discussing. And it sounds like what you guys want to do is love each other better, love each other the best you can. So I think what you got to do is just love each other and not bring those things up, and they shouldn't be festering. If those things are festering inside of you, in the end, it's more you, I think, than it is, or it's you or it's him or it's you guys as individuals than it is as a relationship. Because anytime you start saying this person should do this or this person should do that, usually you have to adjust what your expectations are. I mean, I think, and I know of course you can expect a great deal out of your significant other, your spouse, the one that's catching your spread, at night. But you can't expect things to be, you can't expect to get there by nitpicking, I don't think. And even if the nitpicks are serious, I think you just got to love each other. I think you just got to love the balls off of each other. I dated a girl for a little while, had a beard one time. She had kind of a light beard. And this burned me sometimes, But I just had to see past the love. I couldn't, every time I caught an angle of the light and it was hitting that beard, I couldn't, get angry at her, or call her Wayne Newton. I couldn't do that kind of stuff, or call her, Travis Tritt, or call her Wheeler Walker Jr. I just had to accept the little bit of beard that I was seeing at that angle when the light hit her face. And so a lot of it's about acceptance. And whether you're in a relationship or married, or whether you dating somebody that has a light beard, you just have to accept it. Because if every time that beard starts showing up in your relationship, you try to shave it, or you try to tell them, hey, I see your beard, shave it, that's uncomfortable. It's going to get weird. It's never going to end. Because that hair, that's never going to stop growing. So the best thing you can do is just love them and say, hey world, I'm dating this slightly surprise bearded motherfucker right here. And I appreciate the call. Thank you very much for calling in. God bless. Happy to have you guys on this past weekend, baby. All right, man. What else can we hit here? I think I got one other caller that hit the hotline. Let me see what we got here. All right.
Theo Von, how you doing, man? This is Richard
This is Richard right here. Go ahead, Richard.
Over in St. Louis, Missouri.
Oh, St. Louis Richard. Under the arches, they call him. The old Arch Richard. Old back support Richard right here. Let's hit it, Richard. Go on.
Sweating, melting over here. It's hot. Hey, I love the podcast. Never miss an episode. I got to wondering, though, you never mentioned food. I don't think I've ever heard you mention any kind of food you eat, any kind of food you like, any kind of food you don't like. You know, some days I'm watching a podcast and I'm like, dang, this dude probably ate nothing but chili dogs all day long. But then other days I'm like, man, he looks like he had a nice salad, some refreshing beverages, or, you know, kind of strange. But I was just getting ready to eat dinner and I'm not sure what to eat, and I thought, wonder what Theo Von eats. Anyways, man, love the podcast. I tell everybody I know about it. It's great, man. Awesome. Love you, dude. Bye.
Love you too, Richard. And that is, I guess we can call him Restaurant Richard right there, who wants to know what I'm eating. What do I eat? You know, at first I was just going to be like, man, Richard, that is just the weirdest shit ever that you care what I eat. You know, I was like, this guy's a creep. You know, this guy is someone who is, you know, one of those calorie watchers, you know, who watches what you eat and writes it down on a notepad, who's sitting in the distance while you're trying to eat. But now I think about it, and it kind of felt pretty good that you cared, man. I appreciate you caring, dude. You know, I do. What do I eat, man? You know, I have a lot of smoothies because I don't really like to eat that much. I get a little bored over time of eating. You know, I work a lot, and I'm running around a lot out here in Los Angeles, and so it's hard sometimes to come back home all the time because of traffic. So you don't really get that time to eat all the time your home-cooked meals. I like small oranges, those little oranges, cuties, tangerines, tangelos, different types. What do I like? I like a banana sometimes. I like apples with peanut butter, you know. Sometimes I get a damn Capri Sun, you know. Outside of that, I like water, you know. Sometimes I have me some ice cream. I'm a little lactose intolerant, so I hang with the sherbets. But I like different types of meat, some brisket, some fish. I like a flaky fish, something white, wahoo, mahi-mahi, you know. Every now and then, maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks, I'll get a little bit of sushi. I go heavy on the wasabi with a lighter soy sauce, that low sodium. If you're still rocking high sodium soy sauce, dude, that's the damn oxycodone of Japan right there. Get the green top, okay? Go light sodium. Now, when I'm at home in Louisiana, I have whatever they got. You know what I'm saying? I let somebody just dip a catfish in a vat of mayonnaise and just beat me in the back of the throat with it. Because I like to have them Louisiana snacks. I like different vegetables. I'll eat a salad sometimes with no dressing on it, just plain. I like it like that. Also, I don't eat a lot of cheese. I like cheese, but I know that if I like it a lot, something's wrong. You know, because then I'll just eat cheese. You know, sometimes I just wish I could just have cookies with cheese on them. But you can't have that. It's not good for you. You know, I like avocado. When I was young, my daddy used to eat avocados. He'd cut them in half, take the pit out, fill each half with mayonnaise, and eat those with a spoon, eat it out of the rind. And I remember sometime I'd sneak over there by him, and he'd give me a little mouthful of that avo mayo. And that was a good time. Reminds me of being young. When it comes to desserts, I like coconut cake. I like Boston cream pie. I like coconut cream pie. I like a creme brulee, boy. You could find me in the dessert club, okay? Sugar Busters is for motherfuckers. All right? I don't mind a chocolate pudding, dude. You know? If I got to go cake, I usually like to go a German chocolate. I like a king cake around the holidays. That's a Louisiana tradition. And I like that creme brulee, and I like that bread pudding, any type of bread pudding. I don't care. You got raisins in it, dude. I'll be in it. And that's what I like. I appreciate you calling. Appreciate everybody calling this week, man. We're going to hit the hotline. I'm going to get you guys out of here. It's been a good time. Hit the hotline, man. Let me know what you guys want to talk about, what you guys think. What else? What can we talk about for next week, man? It's August. You know, it's almost August. I'm going to be in Montreal next weekend. We can talk about the Canadians if you want. If you got some thoughts on the Canadians. We can talk about summertime traditions. Does your family have a unique summertime tradition? We could talk about, we talked about the bus and being on drugs and, that man trying to show me his artwork around the side of the building. And maybe if somebody's ever surprised you, you thought you was maybe getting a hit off of a pipe or a hit off of a dime sack, and then they surprise you with some breast or some wiener. You know, we can talk about that. If some fellas are out there having tough times with some manhood stuff, maybe we get back into some manhood. I'd love to do that. You know, what's going on, some of you guys? You know, how you feeling? What are you struggling with? You struggling with drugs? You struggling with alcohol? You struggling with women? You know? Just share it, man. Sometimes you got to let it out. Set it on somebody else's shoulders. I got 2 of them right here if you need them. And that's it, man. I just hit 1 year sober. You know, I don't talk about that much because I don't know if I will be that forever. But for the time being, it's, you know, it's a part of my life. I just don't want, you know, it doesn't define me. You know, I don't know what that is in my life, but for right now, you know, it's something that's working for me and that feels good. But I don't care if you are or you are not. I'm not here to judge you, man. I'm just trying to be one of you. You know, I don't have to be right. I hope not anyway. And when I start feeling like I have to, that's when I know something's wrong with me. But I appreciate you guys calling, man. I love you. And you know, they just hit deeper because you're not encumbered by vision, by colors, by different things going on. You know, that all your senses are coming out of your ears. Your eyes aren't taking up a lot of your bandwidth. So when your ears are operating at full bandwidth, you're coming in hot. And so he gets that spice straight into his brain. He gets that air spice, that sound, straight into his brain when he hears music. And we don't get that, those of us who have visuality. But God bless him, Maurice. And good to be with you guys today, man. And if you're on the YouTubes, you're seeing I'm recording in a different spot today. I am at the comedy club at the Comedy Store because I have to perform in a little while. I just got back from Montreal, from Canada, so I don't know what the exchange rate is on being a straight mother-hugging pimp. But apparently it's 1-to-1 when it comes to this cat daddy, okay? You know what I'm saying? I'll hide some gunpowder in your granddaddy's asshole. You know what I'm saying? That's the kind of fella I am. When I have to get real. Okay, when I gotta get real with somebody. But welcome, man. I hope you guys had a good weekend. Some people had birthdays this weekend. Some people maybe had a baby. If you had a baby this weekend, God bless that beautiful little mud kitten, you know? Straight out of them dirty walls out into the world, you know? Popping right out of mom's wallet. You know, filling its lungs with that frickin' that H2O. You know what I'm saying? That dry H2O air. You know what I'm talking about. I also want to thank, they had a young lady a few months ago. I was at the Calusa Casino. She gave me this card. It says Onward on it. And it's a beautiful card. Onward, it says. And I appreciate that. Made out of metal. Hear that? Metal card. So, but I just got back from Montreal from the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival. And man, Canada's hard to get into. Let me say that. I don't know if you've been to Canada or you ever try to make love to a Canadian person. I don't know if it's the same at those gates, you know, as it is at the vagina and butt gates as it is at the continental walls there at the country walls, but it's hard to get into Canada. Dude, I've been to Kenya, Nairobi, Botswana, Lotswana, baby. Gitmo, you know. I've once broke into someone's house over there outside of Covington, Kentucky. You know, and there are places that are hard to get into. Canada, extremely hard to get into. They ask you trick questions right when you get there. Did you wash your clothes? They'll ask you stuff like that. You're like, and so you start to sweat. And you're sweating right there. It's a man or it's a lady, a strong lady, right there at the customs. And they'll put you on the hot spot, you know. What's your favorite cheese? They'll ask you. And you're like, bam, Havarti, you know. But if you don't have that in you, you sitting there trying to describe cheese. You know, the yellow, the melted, clack, they'll send you out. One time I got stuck at customs and I got locked into this thing for about 2 hours with a musician. His name, he sang that song, Let It Rock, Let It Rock. desire, in the fire and the burn, and not let it rock, let it rock, let it rock. And I think he did a remix or something with Lil Wayne as well. I don't remember his name. If you know that song, you want to drop into the YouTubes or hashtag it this past weekend, let me know what it is on Twitter. But he was a nice guy. I got stuck with him at Customs one time. But anyhow, you can see that I'm recording this week in the Comedy Store on the video. I'm here under the Comedy Store. People are performing upstairs right now. There's a podcast studio in the basement of the Comedy Store. Bobby Lee was just on stage. I was just talking with Mark Maron, who's in that new Glow television show on Netflix. And but I got to Canada, man. I went to the Just for Laughs Montreal Comedy Festival. Montreal is a sister city to New Orleans. So if you like the good food, you can go to Montreal, you can go to New Orleans. If you like the murder for dessert, you know what I'm saying? If you like a little bit of hacksaw Jim Duggan in the back of your skull, then you can mostly get that down in New Orleans. And Montreal is diverse, man. I mean, if you're racist, you can barely figure out who to hate. Very tricky. You know, it's a tough place, I think, if you're a racist to really get specific, to lock your targets, you know, to Top Gun on somebody. And I got up there and I was a little bit, I guess I had some nerves at first. And the Just for Laughs festival has been going on, I think, for, I want to say 50 years, maybe 35, 45 years. And it's all the greatest comedians from America and some from around the world show up there. And all the agents, the best agents. I mean, you're talking Kevin Hart and his, the best managers. They're all there. All of them. They're all staying in the same hotel even. So at night you can go downstairs and you got, everybody's down there partying. You got Danny McBride. You got, Cedric the Entertainer, Howie Mandel. You got Bobby Lee actually has never been there. He just told me. But you got, Jen Kirkman. You got, Ali Wong, you got Eric Griffin, you got Chris D'Elia, you got everybody. And it's unbelievable. It's like the Olympics sort of for comedians. And it's just, but you're not competing against each other. It's just more of a celebration. It's kind of like NBA All-Star Weekend for comedians. And that happens every year in Montreal. And anybody can go. Anyone can go and get tickets, and you can go and hang out at the bar in the evening where everyone is, and it's just a blast, man. All these networks throw different parties, and there's on the street there are these huge stages with outdoor performances, and so much is in French, and people's eating baguettes, and you got hookers, prostitutes, prostitution big in Montreal. So you got that leg candy walking around. You got them girls with that sugar pouch out there shaking it. You know what I'm saying? Trying to give you that diabetes, if you will. And I just got back from there, so I feeling some honor. I'm feeling, I guess, some honor, to be a part of that this weekend. And to get to see, I had lunch the other day with my buddy Steve Byrne and Dave Attell. Dave Attell's considered the greatest joke writer of all time. And just to get to spend time around him, and I look at him, of course, like, I respect him and have a lot of admiration, and I romanticize the idea of even just being able to have a few jokes that are as good as that man's, of his style. But it's great to just sit and kind of share experiences and just feel that some of your idols and some of the people you admire are just regular people. And Dave was telling me a story at lunch. He said, there's a show up here that's kind of off the beaten path. It's done every year where people show up and tell crazy stories about Andy Dick. And Andy Dick is not a sex toy. It's a man. Andy Dick is a man. He's an adult man. And he's a comedian. And Dave, and I actually got to open up for Dave Attell in Shreveport, Louisiana. And that's, I think, Louisiana's third biggest city. And this was probably 10 years ago, or 8 years ago, 9 years ago. 8, 9, or 10 years ago. I just said those again. And Dave, after the show, I walked over to a strip club. Because this is back when I didn't mind seeing some of that, that dancing puss. I'm saying that, seeing a little bit of the old, the titty globetrotters up there. And Dave, and so I walk over there, and Andy Dickolas, is outside of the strip club. Outside. He's drunk. He's hooked up on liquor. He got his brain filled with liquor. And I'm not talking out of shop here. I've told Andy this story, and he knows it. And I love Andy Dick, and I'm telling this story. And Andy Dick had this little kind of hench woman with him, this little love of his, little younger love, a little white girl, And anyhow, it turns out Andy Dick offered me a little blowjob, a little BGeezy. You know what I'm saying? That buh to the juh. You know what I'm saying? That juh. You think it's just 2 letters, but today somebody's getting a dick sucked. You feel me? So Andy Dick offered me that, and I declined. And you always want, and I admire Andy Dick as a comedian and an entertainer to immense levels. And some of you guys are like, he's not that funny. Maybe he is. Maybe he's. Andy Dick, I think, is one of the most entertaining people I've ever seen. He had a show on MTV for a while called The Assistant, I think it was. And hold on, I'm going to drink for a second off of the microphone because I know it bugs some people. Andy had a show called The Assistant on MTV, and it's the greatest show ever. If you can go back and find that anywhere, Andy Dick's The Assistant that was on MTV, and the show Joe Schmo, the original season, 2 of the greatest unscripted or reality shows ever of all time. Anyhow, so Andy Dick offered me that BGeezy, you know what I'm saying? That double consonant, you know what I'm saying? That mouth cack activity, that meat chirp. He offered me that meat chirp. And I denied. I wasn't interested. Fast forward 3 years. I'm performing in Shreveport again. I go to the casino. I go to the strip club after, and that's just a sex casino. And Andy Dick is again in town shooting something else, different film, something, I don't know. Because he wasn't living in Shreveport, he was there shooting something, some piece of entertainment, some footage, usable footage. And he said, he offered me the same thing, that double consonant to the cop. And again, I denied, thankfully denied, though. I'm not rude about that. A lot of men out there, you see these things, a man offer to, touch their wiener or to be gentle with them or to be trying to be gentle with them in the pants, and men be mean to these people. Men be mean to these other men. That's ridiculous. Because no matter what, even whether you prefer that type of mouth joy to your body or not, you still shouldn't be mean to that person. They're still offering you a treat, I mean, they're offering to hide your penis inside of their head. I mean, that's David Copperfield of skin activities, really. So you don't have to be mean, even if it's not of your liking. And so I denied, thankfully, and honorably denied, because Andy Dick's extremely funny, and anyway, I got to share that story with David Theo whenever we had lunch, and. It's kind of a silly story, but I just wanted to share it with you guys now. So, what else happened? Yeah, it was Montreal. It's just crazy. I mean, there's tens of thousands of people show up, and they're out on the street, and beautiful women, okay? And I'm talking mixed colors you have not even seen of skin, I'm talking chincanibras, I'm talking you got... African Aryans. You got the Israel Mexicans. You got everybody out there. It is so mixed and beautiful palette that you really get an idea of what the world is going to look like one day. And I know if you're living in like a community where it's mostly white or black, like I grew up in was black and white. That's all we had. But I don't know if you can hear the music in the background right now. Somebody's just getting off stage upstairs at the world famous Comedy Store. Can you hear that crowd cheering? You might not be able to hear it, but it's happening. But that was that's how diverse it is, and you start to see that the world's going to be a beautiful color one day when it all works comfortably. Montreal is a very progressive city. And it's a safe city. I mean, Canada's all about safety. When I was young, I didn't even know Canada was a real place. I thought that when I was growing up there and I was in junior high school, I remember they had a chart on the wall, a big drawing, not a map, and it had America and all the cities and states in America. And then below America, it had Mexico. But they just had, instead of describing all the cities and everything in Mexico, they just had the outline of Mexico. And then they had a picture of a man and a cactus. And the man was drinking some liqueur and wearing a hat under the sunlight. But now if you go up there to Canada, for Canada, all they had a picture of a wolf chasing a boy. They didn't have any cities or anything like that. They had a picture of a wolf chasing a boy. And I was like, oh, so that's all I thought about Canada. A place where, it got very Swiss Family Jack Kerouac, if you will. You kind of had to fend for yourself. Got kind of like a bootleg Jumanji. And cold too. And I've never been a huge fan of the cold either. But I thought that's what Canada was, It was a place to practice safety, really. I thought Canada was a place where America just tried out safety equipment. Do these helmets work? Send them to Canada. Let's see. Are these floaties legit? Send them up to Canada. Does this have enough air in it? Send it to Canada. Let's see if they like it. See if it works for them. Because Canada's like the safest place. You could just be in a conversation with somebody. If the conversation gets loud, they'll put on a safety helmet. They'll put on a bike helmet. Canada's about the safest place you can go. But Montreal, you have this French infection. So you got the attitude, everybody got nipples on their tits, Everybody got nipples on their tits. Because that's attitude buttons. That's what they got flying out of their chest and breast areas. Milk pouches. Rib milk pouches. And so we're out there in Montreal, and it's beautiful. I mean, you walk down the street, dude, you're in that boner zone. You're in that boner zone. And you just see beautiful women. I mean, every woman just seemed like a damn caramel. They made out of caramel. You could eat their face, boy. Beautiful, chewy, sweet, salty caramel cheeks. Like you could just grab a piece of a woman's cheek and just chew it up and blow bubbles. I mean, everyone have a beautiful tint of skin. That French, that kind of, that Cajun a little bit if you're down in the bayou, that Cajun. So anyway, it's nice to see all the beautiful people. And then you have all this art going on, There's people on stilts. And I mean like a lot of people. You'll see 30 people on stilts wandering around. You'll see all these art displays, just like a man watching television, but just out in the middle of the street. Like he's just sitting there on a sofa. He's like a stepdad or something. He's got his belly out. He's chilling. And there's a TV on just watching, something. Safety. Well, probably watching people be safe in the background. I bet they have a channel for that. But I always thought that that's what Canada was, just a place where America practiced safety and where avalanches could happen. Because it's snow country, cold water country. And that's where avalanches could happen. And I used to have dreams where I was in avalanches. I had these avalanche dreams. And a lot of people would drink. I was the one person who showed up to the avalanche with urine in their body, with a full thing of urine. And I don't know if we'd been in a plane crash or train crash, but everybody else had just urinated before whatever the vehicle was crashed. And so I'm the one who got the urine. And it's funny, you say, everybody says, urine, it's wee-wee. But once you get in an avalanche, that's wine, brother. That's wine. That's warm wine you're serving. It's only piss until you stuck in avalanche. Then that's wiener wine, Who wants a couple warm sips of Cabernet off daddy, And I'm good for that unless Andy Dick is serving them then. No, thank you, Andy Dick. Not interested. But I had a great time, man. I was just honored to be part of this festival. And then I'm doing my television taping. So you do 4 or 5 sets. I got to open up for Chris D'Elia, Eric Griffin, 2 buddies of mine having good careers. And then you do a couple of other sets around town. And you're just popping in these different clubs and studios that are all across their city. So it's pretty remarkable, really. It's pretty remarkable. You're busting around everywhere. And then the next thing you know, I'm I'm on stage doing my television taping, which is like the place is packed. There's 2 levels of it. It's beautiful. It's TV. There's cameras everywhere. I'm on stage. I'm in the middle of my set, and I am crushing. I'm crushing. And this man comes up out of the blue and taps me on the shoulder. It's like a lit up set and everything, like you see on TV. And he's like, the generator outside just blew out. We're not picking up the audio into the sound truck or production truck. So I had to stop, bro. Right in the middle of my set, I had to stop. And man, that was heartbreaking because I was doing well. But so that was surprising. I mean, first of all, it's surprising when you're on stage, you're in that zone to have somebody even touch you because you're on stage by yourself. It's like rolling over in bed and they got somebody right there. Or they got a new animal you never even owned. Surprise, what's that? Lizard, ferret. Active animal, cabaret animal. And that's, it's something scary. And that's how it was for me a little bit, to have that experience and be a little bit scared. So, but I just felt honored to be in Montreal. And I also feel honored right now to tell you guys that Dollar Shave Club is the smarter choice. And you can support the podcast. You can support This Past Weekend and the smarter choice. You can get a great shave at a great price. Okay, go to dollarshaveclub.com/weekend. And it's only $5. They send you the razor. They send you the nice razor. It's weighty. It feels, it's not plastic. It's a metal, mercury or something. I don't know, yard metal, something. And they send you that Dr. Carver's shave butter. And that's for you. It's for a limited time. New members get their first month of the executive razor with a tube of Dr. Carver's shave butter for only $5 with free shipping. After that, razors are just a few bucks a month. That's a $15 value for only $5. Go to dollarshaveclub.com/weekend. It's a no-brainer choice. You can buy these cheap razors that cut you up, make you feel like like you're a unloved stepfather when you're done shaving. Make you feel like you're living in like you're living in gold country, mining gold after you shave. Don't live like that. Use my Dollar Shave Club executive razor with the Dr. Carver's shave butter. You like butter on your hotcakes? Put it on your face. Put it on your cheeks. That's dollarshaveclub.com/weekend. And I'm going to tell you about some dates, man. I am in Dallas, and that is next weekend, man. And I need to hit. Guys, I can't tell you enough that tell your friends, if you have them in the Dallas area, that I'm at the Addison Improv. It's my favorite club to perform at, next to this club in La Jolla and next to the Comedy Store. That's number 3. Addison Improv. It's in Dallas, Texas. You're going to love it. I'm there August 10th through the 13th. Then I'm in Austin. I'm back in Texas. And that is September 6th through the 9th. September 21st through 24th, I'm at Hilarities in Cleveland. And I got a new date to offer you. November 16th through the 19th, I'm in Huntsville, Alabama at Stand Up Live Huntsville. That is November 16th through 19th. And I'm still trying to lock down a date a month from now in Vancouver. So if I do, I will let you know. I'm going to do a follow-up this week. So if I do, I'll let you know on there, and I'll let you know on Twitter, on Instagram. But I appreciate you guys tuning in to This Past Week, and I appreciate the support. Thank you guys for everything. Let's hit the hotline now. Also, I hit a couple of guys up. We're going to do a follow-up this week. A lot of people call in, and they don't really have questions, but they'll also have comments as to, something that was discussed on an episode. So we're going to try to do a follow-up where I can, apply those into the follow-up on a Thursday or Friday release. But thank you guys for the love and support, and you can also always support the album. Both albums, Musket Fire and 30-Pound Bag of Hamster Bones. Those are both available on iTunes. All right, let's get to the first call right here.
Hey, Theo. I don't know. I just had a little question about how would you deal with, say, stress? Maybe a little down in the dumps. I've hit the best point anyone would say in my life. that I've ever been, but yet I feel worse than I ever have in the parts of my life that weren't so good. Just maybe if you had any insight.
Okay, I'm a little confused by that part, the parts of my life that weren't so good. Because you feel the best, but the worst in the parts of your life that weren't so good. Okay, maybe now it's a little clearer for me that I've repeated it. Onward.
Right on, you know, what it is to be happy when you're not, and how to get past that. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate the call, 100%. Yeah, I've spent a lot of my time depressed, man. I spent, a lot of time, I think probably 8 or 10 years trying to sleep away feeling bad. Just trying to sleep it away. I was working and doing stuff as well, but when I wasn't, I was finding ways to check out. Sleep, looking at pornography, pornographics, even sexual dioramas. I knew a dude in India who was making sexual artworks and mailing them over to me. And if you're not familiar with dioramas, just basically just a shoebox with an activity inside of it. And it's, for me, those were sexual ones that somebody was making, and actually kind of nice now looking back. But so I'm familiar with some of that, brother. That things are going well, but you still don't feel good. You still feel empty. You still feel less than. And for me, what I try to do each day that makes me feel good is to get out of myself. To get out of myself. Stop thinking, because if everything in your life is about you, I feel like you get sick. So what I try to do is when I wake up, I make a gratitude list. I find 10 things that I'm grateful for. And then I'll try to reach out to 3 other people, whether it be a text, it can be a family member, it can be an old friend. Just say hello. How are you? It could be a call. Calls are always nice because it's more real. And then after that, I'll try to do a 5-minute meditation. And that kind of it kind of lifts me up a little bit. Takes me out of myself. After that, sometimes I'll go for a walk. I'll go for a walk outside. I'll walk to get a coffee. But the gratitude list is a thing that I find over time that helps me the most, because I think about things that I'm grateful for. And I'm not going to sit there and be like, I'm grateful for myself. I'll sit there and say I'm grateful for, my brother, because I know that he loves me, and I know when I need a voice or an ear to understand me, and then a voice to care for me, that he can supply that. And I'll write out all that. I don't just write, I'm grateful for my brother. I'll write out, I'm grateful for my brother and why. Or I'll write, I'm grateful for my lungs. They give me the air that I need so that I can walk, or so that I can run, go to the gym. I know things like that sound simple, might sound stupid, but after 10 of those things, I'm not thinking about me. I'm thinking about gratitude. I'm infected by a little bit of gratitude, and I find it really hard to be unhappy when you're infected with gratitude, man. And if there are still other more specific reasons in your life that you're feeling unhappy, I think you'd probably have to share what those are. And look, I'm not a counselor, but so I'd recommend maybe just hitting up a counselor. If you really cannot shake that unhappiness, you could need medication. Maybe you need to get an animal. Different things like that. Get you. I don't like lizards really that much. Some people like them that listen to heavy metal, but a beautiful animal can help. One of my friends has 2 cats that sleep by her head at night. And even though she doesn't like it when they do that because she doesn't have an air conditioner, she still loves those cats. So an animal sometimes can really help. But I appreciate the call, man, and good luck getting happy. And if you find yourself that you're trying to sleep it off, then that for me was a sign that something was wrong. I would be like, if I'll go to sleep and I'll feel better when I wake up. And it would work a lot, but it's not an effective. There's more effective ways to get to the root of whatever your problem are, so that you can just be awake and live life and feel pleasant. But good luck, man, and I hope you feel better, brother. Let's get to another hotline call. That's about Canadian checks. Let's go.
Hey, Theo, this is Greg from Gainesville.
Oh, Greg from Gainesville, and that's Florida Gator country. A lot of gators down there. A lot of missing people who are missing long enough, presumed dead. You got to wonder sometimes when you see a gator if they've met each other. Gators, dark artists. Onward.
I got a story about a friend of mine, a Chinese-Canadian guy that I knew.
Chinese-Canadian, boom. Tapping right back into that Montreal, that mix, boy, that Montreal mix. I mean, it is just a... You ever have paint class when you were young and you just lost your mind and mixed every paint together and it was kind of this purple color? Man, that's how beautiful it is, man, when you mix it all together up in Montreal. But this guy's talking about Chinese-Canadian. Did you think that could even happen? It's happening, bro. Truly beautiful. Onwards.
In college, and he told me this story about when he was 9 years old.
So he said he had a friend, a Chinese-Canadian guy that he knew in college, who told him a story from when that boy was 9 years old. Let's hear it.
And I don't know if this is like some Canadian ritual or whatnot, but he, when he was 9 years old, he was invited to this party by the most popular kid in his class, and he was really excited to go. So he gets there, and it's all these other boys, like 13 boys or something like that, and they have this basement area of their house. They put on a movie. I guess there's some dirty scene in the movie. And the kid whose party it was, he says, "Hey, look, my brother told me that that's where babies come from."
Ooh, man, this is getting creepy and risky and interesting at the same time. We can all remember times when we were young, infected with novice brains and novice hormones. Onward.
And one of the other kids, he says, "Well, you guys want to make some babies?" So then the next morning, the parents come down into the basement, and they just see all these kids lying around there, and just this massive pile of jizz on the floor. And so I guess he said what had happened was,
my God,
they all jerked off together and created a baby, and then they just passed out because they were so sleepy. Anyhow, that's my Canadian story. Love the podcast. Keep listening.
Wow. Most people's Canadian stories is snowboarding or getting chased by wolves, dude, or finding escorts. Finding women of the night or entertaining those women. Thanks for sharing, dude. I mean, honestly, they made a baby, dude. They made one of those Canadian floor babies. And that's a new ritual. I mean, if that's not a new birthday party ritual to make a Canadian floor baby, then I don't know what is. I would love to know what the movie is. Not in a perverse way. I'm not sitting here thinking about young boys ejaculating, But I am sitting here reflecting into my own life of what it was like at that time. To be young, to be infected with your own erection, to be around other boys and everybody's curious and scared and desperate and naive, just to be a whirlpool of all those emotions at one time. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable to have all those feelings really so prevalent and new inside of your body. So that's fascinating, man. I remember that Sharon Stone scene in which you would part her legs, and there was just a rumor in the universe that you could see that beeve, that you could be peeping beeve. And that just, I remember just watching that and trying to pause it. And I remember trying to pause that movie 70 times to get it at the exact spot. And even then, you still had 95% of seeing anything had to be your imagination. It was so pixelated. It was so, it's just what we had then. So that's just unbelievable, man. That's unbelievable that they were making Canadian floor babies, man. Wow. And that takes a lot of teamwork. That's really, it almost sounds like an Olympic sport. Those Canadian floor babies. And I remember getting invited over into a whirlpool tub. Now, a child, and I might have told this story before, but you can hear it now if you haven't. When I was a youngster, when I was a young man, there was a boy in our town who had a whirlpool, a new yard hot tub. And he invited a bunch of us over. It was his birthday. And one boy came who was older than the rest of us, and this boy's name was Larry Wilkarams. And Larry Wilkarams was probably, he could have been 24 years old in the 6th or 7th grade. And that's back when they let you keep going, until you hit about 30. They just made you a janitor at the school, and that was that. But Larry Wilkarams, we're all sitting in this hot tub because this boy got a hot tub. And first of all, you didn't usually get a hot tub in Louisiana because it's already hot. So at that point, you're just making soup out of your friends and family, in the yard. But we got 5 or 6 or 7 boys sitting in this hot tub. Larry Wilkarams is pleasuring himself under the water. And we don't know about pleasuring ourselves because we had never seen this activity. And right before he's about to experience, superstardom fireworks, semen time with his wiener, he pulls it up out of the water and starts ejaculating into the water. Now, half of us are scared, jumping out of there. We've never seen this. And then one boy, whose party it was, latched on to Larry Wilkarams' wiener with both hands because he thought that Larry Wilkarams was dying, that his everything inside of him was slowly going to shoot out his wiener until he was empty, just a pile of skin floating around in that hot tub, just like an empty pool toy. Well, Larry Wilkarams felt this boy latch onto his wiener with both hands, So Larry got scared, I guess, and some type of, aggressive heterosexual male reaction, punched this boy right in the neck. And man, I've never seen a man holding on to some other man's penis tightly and get punched in the neck at the same time. And that boy was never the same. God bless him. He was never the same. So I appreciate your call from Gainesville, Florida. This type of stuff happens, and we live and learn. But that's them Canadian floor babies. Wow. That is very interesting. All right, let's take this last call right here. And thank you for everybody that hit the hotline. If you hit the hotline and your call doesn't make it on, look, just try again. Try again another time, I'm trying to get every call in that I can, and I really appreciate it. I'm very grateful for you guys' calls. Again, that number is 985-664-9503. All right, let's take this last call right here. Here we go.
Theo, what's up, you fluctuating firework? How you doing, bro? Hey, buddy, I'm calling in relation to the Lord. I know you affectionately mention Christ and the Lord, and that you are actually a spiritual individual. And I was just curious, to what degree do you practice any of that in your life?
Okay, young fella calling about the Lord. And some people say the Lord these days, the L-O-R-T, and that's kind of slang for the Lord. Onward. Let's hear more.
I myself would say that I love to have Christ consciousness as part of my life, but don't necessarily go to church every Sunday. And so you seem to have a similar understanding that, Jesus was the man. He laid out this path that we should follow because he was kind and loving to other people, and I kind of see the same way. But just curious, what is your spiritual practice? Do you meditate? Do you pray? Do you read things? Or are you just a good person? Love you, brother. Peace.
Well, I appreciate the call. The Lord with me, I have faith. And my faith is predominantly a Christian faith, I find, because that's what I was raised around. My father and I used to walk to church when I was young. My brother's life was lifted up and really resurrected at a time when he was at some of his low points. There were some churches and people of the church and people that had very strong faith that really stood by him and helped him and took care of him. So God is, when I look back on the history of my life, has taken care of people that I love. I used to pray a lot when I was young, and a lot of it was out of fear. And some people have faith, because maybe there's fear. I don't know. Everybody might have a different reason with it or a different walk with it, But for me, I like to have faith. I'd rather have it than not. I get away from it at times, I get caught up in myself. I get caught up thinking that I am my own God. I am running the show. And when I get too far into that space, I find that for me, it's not healthy. It's nice if you have somebody that, even if it's just an invisible power out in the world, that makes you feel not alone. And that's what I find is the most beautiful thing about faith, is that you have to have it. You have to make the effort. You have to be willing to let go of control. And I think that that's a brave thing to do. So to have faith, for me, it feels really brave, and it feels really hard. Like, to not, to say, instead of worrying and overwhelming myself, to say that I'm going to turn this over to a higher power and ask them for help, ask them to let me out of these little cages that I put myself in, where I'm stressed or worried or fearful. It's nice to have somebody, and especially, growing up without a father, growing up absent of a lot of male figures that were strong or solid for me. When I look back, faith was always there for me whenever I needed it, really. And it's kind of one of those things where you can use it as you want. But I like to have it. I think it's brave to have some faith. It's brave to not be alone in a time where it's such a me world. So it feels good to me, and it feels like a brave thing to me. I'm not a devout Bible beater. I couldn't tell you a great deal of stories from the Bible. That's not my place. But I can tell you that, I ask God for help sometimes, and I thank God for helping me when at the end of the day, for just allowing me to be a part of this amazing thing that's life, whether those things are good or bad. And I like going to church sometimes because what I see at church is people getting together, people just being people. I like to see the children at church enjoying each other's company and playing games and running around and going to Sunday school, and it's just it's a social place for them where they can, where we're trying to keep some of the dark arts out of our veins and just trying to inspire them to not feel alone. And I wish that, I kind of covet those few memories I do have from growing up where my father and I would walk to church. I think I covet some of those. And so for me, I have a higher power, and I want to be able to, to access that higher power better. And it's all up to me being willing to let go of control. And so it's a constant battle because I want to be in control. That's my ego. I want to run the show, but it feels nice to let it go, man. It's like having one of those, those electric things that clean your pool or clean your floor. You can leave. You can leave and go do whatever. You can be gone, and that thing's still working. And